the Sorcerer of the Celestial Dragon line. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 176, Lost Civilization. Throwing this divine crystal into the dimensional space, Allen landed from the air. The ground was charred, and a lot of treasures were scattered on the ground. Allen found a lot of dog-haired gold here. This tribe does not have the ability to metallurgical, but Aelu actually found some gold coins and carved gems here. The front of the gold coin is a pyramid, and the back is carved with a goddess. The style is a bit rough, with a few words or patterns on it. Obviously, these things are not something that the indigenous tribe can make. After collecting the things, Allen came to the trunk of the big tree. The trunk has been carbonized, and many black particles fell off with a light touch. Gently peel off the black carbonized layer, and a touch of green appeared inside. Seeing the green, Allen was happy, without any surprise in his eyes. His hands were not slow, and he peeled off the carbonized layer in a few strokes, and the green thing was completely exposed. This is a piece of about 4 feet long, the thickness of a goose egg, with a green glow on the surface, and smooth like jade. Such a big tree heart. This time the harvest is really good. Allen's face was full of joy when he saw the exposed tree heart. This is the essence of this ogre tree. Most old trees will have it, but the quality is different. This tree heart is produced by a divine creature, gathering most of the essence of the ogre tree, and the quality is already high-grade material. This is a good material for making a staff. If it is sold in the 5 Rings Tower, 3,000 magic stones are just a friendly price. As long as the craftsmanship is not bad, the minimum price after successful production is 5,000 magic stones. He put away the tree heart, checked it, and found that there was no other valuable spoils. He gently waved the staff in his hand, and a whirlwind appeared out of thin air, blowing away the ashes and trees that had not yet burned out, revealing the cracked land. He threw a few seeds casually, and a light green spiritual light shot out. Catalysis. The seeds that fell to the ground quickly sprouted and grew. Soon, the lush scenery here was restored. As for the remaining traces, in this rainy tropical rainforest, it would disappear completely in less than 3 days. This tribe basically no longer exists. Last night, the cannibal tree they were shipped as a god used life siphoning to fight Allen, and most of the natives were sucked into mummies. Most of those who escaped the disaster were severely traumatized. Whether they can recover is still uncertain, and they are more likely to become crazy. And in this rainforest full of dangers, they will not live long, even if they are in a normal state without the collective power. After searching for a while, Allen finally found a crazy native in a bush. He frowned and said helplessly, "I don't know what he remembers in this state. If there is nothing, we can only try to find something else." With a light tap of the staff in his hand, the body of the native, who was already dull, stiffened directly. Then he looked into Allen's eyes with lifeless eyes. At this time, his eyes flashed a purple light, which seemed to suck away his mind at a glance. As time went by, the light became brighter and brighter, and the surrounding rainforest was filled with a faint purple light. Finally, the purple light converged in an instant, and the body of the native man instantly fell to the ground, and the bright red blood slowly seeped out from his nostrils and eyes. Sure enough, there is still nothing. The memory is seriously damaged. We need to find a few more. As he said this, he casually cast an acid spell to dissolve the native man who had become a corpse, and then disappeared from the spot. In the silent rainforest, several long-tailed monkeys jumped on the trees, picked a few fruits, took a bite, and threw them away, and then jumped to another big tree. A figure suddenly appeared in the air, and several long-tailed monkeys fled in fear, jumped to a tree in the distance, looked back and saw nothing, and continued to play. Allen looked down at the rainforest with a headache. After solving the cannibal tree a few days ago, Allen found the place where the gold coins were obtained from the memories of several natives. It was a relic hidden deep in the rainforest. After getting the answer he wanted, he flew over directly. However, he still underestimated the rainforest. Under the cover of a large number of trees, Allen did not gain anything. The chip scan did not find any abnormalities. it is very likely that the relic has been almost destroyed or even completely occupied by trees. Boom. A muffled sound came. It's going to rain. Let's wait until the rain stops before looking again. Allen looked at the weather and prepared to wait until the rain stopped before continuing to look. He found a big tree and used plant transformation to make a tree house. He hid directly in it, and then a rainstorm arrived as expected. It rained heavily for 2 days. On the 3rd day, it finally cleared up. Allen left the tree house and continued to go deeper into the rainforest. Suddenly, Allen found a reflected light on the ground. He moved and appeared on the ground. A thick layer of dead branches and leaves piled up on the ground. The air exuded the smell of soil, and a little golden light shone among the dead branches and leaves. With a wave of his hand, a gold coin flew directly into his hand. It was exactly the kind that Allen found in the indigenous tribe. 2 days of heavy rain triggered a flood, and a large number of dead branches and leaves were washed away, revealing this gold coin. With a light tap of his finger, a gust of wind appeared out of thin air and directly cleared the ground within 10 meters around. Long strips of rock were half buried in the soil at an angle. The rocks were very regular and could be seen to be artificially made. Allen had a hunch that he had found his target. Chip. Scan the surrounding rocks. Soon a translucent interface appeared in front of Allen's eyes, with a 3-dimensional image of a ruined city on it. The image was full of ruins, collapsed stone tablets, disappeared houses, the foundation of the city wall, and even in the center of the city, there was a pyramid. The pyramid was more than 30 meters high, and was completely blocked by trees. The tower was square, and had a platform on top. This is the only intact building in the entire city, and most of the other buildings have only the foundation left. Allen moved and appeared in front of the pyramid. A gust of wind swept, and pieces of smooth granite appeared in front of him. A stone staircase led directly to the top of the tower. There were a lot of carved patterns on the stone walls on both sides of the pyramid. The patterns were already blurred, and a lot of plants took root in the cracks of the stone walls, and many of them had fallen off. Allen took a look and found that it was about the religious beliefs of ancient civilizations, as well as some descriptions of life. The most common pattern was a bird. The strange bird was burning with flames, and the ancients here held a grand sacrifice for this bird. Let the chip scan the pattern for analysis, and Allen slowly climbed up the pyramid along the steps. Chapter 177 Earthbound Spirit. Allen stepped onto the top of the pyramid. The pyramid in front of him was covered by dense plants, and the big trees extended their branches to the range of the pyramid. The vines in the jungle inserted their roots into the cracks of the pyramid, entangled and winding up, and the whole pyramid was lush and green. This is the norm in tropical rainforests, and every inch of space is occupied by plants. The top of the tower is a square building, built of huge granite stones, with an altar in the middle, but there is nothing on the altar. Next to it is a high platform in the style of an observatory, and nothing else. The statue has long been rolled to an unknown place, and the dark red blood stains on the altar have seeped into the rocks. It can be seen that thousands of years ago, extremely cruel blood sacrifices were often held here. There were other animals, slaves, and prisoners, and their blood had seeped into the rocks. Blood sacrifice again. These people are really not afraid of death. At the end of a large number of blood sacrifices, the gods they worship are likely to become monsters or evil gods. Looking at the entire ruins, you don't have to think about it to know that their end will not be good. After checking the chip map, Allen suddenly found that there was a large space in this pyramid. He summoned the wizard's hand and carefully checked around. He found a loose stone slab under the altar. He lifted the stone slab with his fingers and a dark hole was revealed. The hole was not big, only enough for one person to enter and exit. Inside was a downward stone staircase. He cast a protective spell on himself, snapped his fingers, and a bright light appeared. Allen walked in directly. As soon as he entered the passage, Allen found that the negative energy around him was a bit strong. As he went down the stone steps, the negative energy became stronger and stronger. The range of the light spell was also limited, and it could only illuminate half of the original place. Suddenly, Allen's footsteps froze, and then he continued to walk down. Interesting, there is actually a spirit here, but is it a vengeful spirit, a groundbound spirit, or a vicious spirit? Allen thought in his heart. Just now, He saw that the altar used a lot of blood sacrifices, and he knew that there would be serious consequences. Sure enough, after entering here, he found something lurking in the dark. In this case, the most likely thing is a ground-bound spirit or a malevolent spirit. This kind of thing is very lethal to ordinary people, almost to the point of being invincible. However, the ground-bound spirit has a small range of activities. It is confined to a very small area and cannot leave. Once it leaves, it will dissipate directly. Most malevolent spirits are attached to an object. As long as the object it is attached to is taken away, the malevolent spirit can also be taken away. Allen is not worried about these things. The monsters or evil gods worshipped by this civilization are not here, and other things cannot attract his attention. Even if the ground-bound spirits and malevolent spirits encounter Allen, they will only add a few soul crystals to him. The stone steps are not long. Soon, Allen went down to the bottom floor. A pair of eyes stared at him in the dark. Allen looked in that direction and found nothing. Thousands of years have made it almost integrated with this place. It is not easy to find it here. Snapping his fingers, balls of light appeared one after another in the air, illuminating this basement. The dazzling golden light dazzled Allen. A pile of gold was quietly piled up not far away. Even Allen, who had seen many treasures, was a little stunned. At this moment, Allen's eyes suddenly changed, and he appeared in a surer field. Under his feet were no longer the stone slabs of the basement, but piled up into a hill of corpses. Countless mutilated zombies, and more monsters kept coming from afar. Red blood rain fell from the sky, and huge birds of prey circled and danced. Allen wanted to cast a spell, but suddenly found that his body was empty. The original surging energy disappeared, and his strong body became weak. He turned into the seriously ill and old Lin Mu on the earth. His originally calm mood suddenly became panic. What's going on? Where is my power? Allen looked unbelievable. The monsters in the distance began to approach, and a look of fear appeared on his face. Just after Allen fell into the illusion, the basement returned to darkness, and the cold breath made the ground appear white frost. Hatred, greed, desire, and jealousy. Staring at his body with mixed emotions, the spirit could no longer bear it when it felt the surging vitality. A vague black shadow slowly approached Allen. Just when it was about to touch his heart. Soul imprisonment. A loud shout sounded, and Allen, who had closed his eyes and was in a fantasy, looked at the imprisoned spirit with a smug look on his face. Then he took out a magic gem, and a burst of grey powder flew from his fingers. Soul whip. A grey whip appeared, and then lashed the spirit fiercely. The part of the spirit that was whipped was directly broken, and a trace of black breath slowly drifted away. Allen's hands did not stop, and he kept commanding the whip to whip, and finally the spirit's breath continued to weaken. Then, a flash of spiritual light flashed in his hand. Soul binding technique. A suction force appeared out of thin air, and easily took the spirit in. If I don't pretend to be bewitched, I'm afraid I can't seduce you. But since you're here, don't think about running away. He summoned a few more light spells, and the basement was illuminated again. After putting away the gold and silver products piled up like a small mountain in front of him, Allen began to look around. This basement was right below the altar, and there were many black marks on the wall, which were the marks of a large amount of blood drying up. In the middle was a stone platform, on which a shrine was placed. The gold and silver products were gathered around the shrine, and a red egg was quietly placed in the shrine. This spirit absorbed a lot of negative emotions under this altar. It was a mixture of many consciousnesses. The despair, fear, hatred and other emotions of the sacrifices during the blood sacrifice were finally gathered here, and finally formed this evil spirit. This civilization probably wanted to hatch this egg, but in the end the egg did not hatch, but instead cultivated an evil spirit. With the ability of the evil spirit, it was easy to kill people who entered here. In the absence of a way to eliminate this evil spirit, these people finally had to abandon the city. Chip. Scan the egg. Yes. A cold mechanical voice sounded, followed by an invisible light wave. Scan results. Target type, bird egg. Activity, very low. Hatching probability, 1000th. Target is fire attribute. According to data comparison, the similarity rate of fire crow egg is 30%. The similarity rate of fiery falcon egg is 50%. The similarity rate of flame hawk is 47.6%. And the similarity rate of fire phoenix is 27.3%. It's just a dead egg, but it's better than nothing. After collecting the egg, which was a little bigger than an ostrich egg, and having nothing else, Allen went straight out of the basement. Chapter 178 Wizard. The indigenous tribe is not far from the ruins of the pyramid. A group of field investigators wearing jackets are collecting samples from the ground, and several others are fiddling with some advanced looking equipment. These people seem to be a group of scientific expedition members, and several of them are standing next to the cannibal tree, which has only some charcoal left, pointing and talking. Some people carefully use tweezers to pick up things that look valuable and put them into transparent bags. Many people are taking pictures with digital cameras. Robert, it has been confirmed that the place where the strong energy fluctuations broke out 5 days ago is here, a researcher said to the leader with a tablet computer. Have you found anything? Robert asked while looking at the information. A lot of traces have been destroyed, but we still got some after our efforts. Tell me about your gains. Judging from the traces on the scene, this is a huge ancient tree. According to the data we observed, and the things collected on the scene, we didn't find anything valuable, but it's a bit strange that we found a lot of traces of burning, but except for that big tree, other plants did not burn. The researcher paused and continued. Have you taken samples from the plants? Robert raised his head and said. And that big tree, is there anything left? We have taken some of the roots of the tree. The rest of the tree was burned, and we only found some charred charcoal. What about the natives? Have you found them? We found one, but he has gone crazy and is extremely weak. He may not be able to survive until we leave. Damn it, if it weren't for the rainstorm, we would have come here a long time ago. Now we have come here for nothing. It's not that we didn't find anything. We found some strange gold coins in the native tribe. The researcher said cautiously. Strange gold coins? Robert asked back. Yes, gold coins. This tribe is very backward and has no ability to smelt metals at all, but we found some gold coins in this tribe. The researcher stroked his nose and said with some joy, these may be obtained by exchanging items with people from the outside world. Robert was not very interested, but I compared the gold coin images in the database and found no information about this kind of gold coin, and the words on this kind of gold coin are something we have never seen before. The researcher took out a small bag from his pocket and handed it to Robert. Undiscovered gold coins? This is the only good news I have heard in the past few days. He took the gold coins and examined them. After confirming that there was nothing left, Allen left the pyramid hidden deep in the rainforest. The sky had dimmed, and he cast an invisibility spell and prepared to fly away. But the chip suddenly reminded him that there was intelligent life in the distance. Allen's heart moved, and he flew directly in that direction. Looking at the scientific expedition team in front of him seriously investigating the indigenous tribe, Allen was not in a hurry to leave, and watched these people busy with interest. What day is today? There are people in the tropical rainforest, where few people go. Allen looked at the two shadows floating in the sky in the distance. The real vision attached to the red dragon blood allowed him to clearly see what the two shadows were. They were two Europeans wearing retro British robes. They flew on a long-handled broom and came to this rainforest at a very fast speed. After landing in this place, they took out a strange 2-foot-long cane. Forget everything. Ailu's eyes lit up, and he finally understood why this world was so weird. It was obvious that the two were wizards, but what Ailu didn't understand was how these wizards got here. Watching the two wizards from this plane cast spells, Ailu found that their spells were more dependent on the staffs in their hands. The staff was equivalent to a transmitter. With the help of spells and the power of the magic net, the magic power in the body could be released to form spells. Compared with the wizard world, the power was much smaller, but the advantage was also good. The magic power and mental power required to cast spells were greatly reduced. After the two wizards cleared the memory of the expedition team, they used suggestion to let them leave, and then took some things out of their luggage and took them away. The Ministry of Magic is too short-handed. This group of people are about to reach some ghost town. Yeah, I haven't had a vacation for 3 months. If it continues like this, I'm going to go on strike. We must apply for more staff after this mission. We can't maintain normal operations with so few people. Come on, William. Those officials in the Ministry of Magic won't listen to your complaints. They only look at how much salary you get and whether you have completed the work. I remember this place wasn't an indigenous tribe before. And there used to be a man-eating tree here. How come it's gone? It's a rare tree. I just saw some burnt trees and a stump. It looks like the tree has been destroyed. Oh, God, this is really unfortunate news. The Endangered Species Conservation Committee is going to make trouble again this time. Report it truthfully. We are short of staff and there is nothing we can do. Now we can only pray that our bonuses will not be deducted. It's so unlucky. This month's vacation will definitely be cancelled. By the way, why didn't the Ministry of Magic send anyone to deal with this ghost town when it knew about it? I do know this. That ghost town belonged to a prehistoric civilization. This civilization worshipped evil gods. I don't know how it was destroyed later. They left a vicious spirit there. The Dangerous Creatures Committee tried to destroy it many times but failed. If there are too many people, he will hide, and we can't find him at all. Fortunately, the vicious spirit can't leave. We just need to organize ordinary people to enter. Allen hid in the rainforest. The invisibility spell completely concealed his figure. He quietly observed the movements of the two wizards. After clearing everyone's memory, he cast the suggestion spell again, and the two quietly left. By closely observing the two wizards casting spells, Allen also discovered the strange rules of this world. The wizards in this world cast spells very simply. There is no need to construct complex spell models. They only need to use spells to guide the energy on the magic net to cast them. The role of the magic wand is extremely important here. Although it facilitates casting spells, it separates wizards from the original power of this world. In other words, the in-depth research on the rules of magic in this world is not high, or even very low. Chapter 179 Fire Dragon. Perhaps it is the uniqueness of the world's rules that makes the magic of this world seem to deviate from reason and rules, completely different from Tebas and the wizard world, which makes it still a relatively rough empirical knowledge. Just now, Allen had mastered some of the spells used by the two by observing the reaction of the mental power and the magic network when the wizard cast the spell. He was surprised by the simplicity of the spell. There was no need for preparation or debugging. All he needed to do was to correctly master the pronunciation of the spell and concentrate his mental power. There was no need to construct a spell template and then use the magic wand to guide it. Then, with a sound of BIU, they are really a group of amateur spellcasters who make a living by the rules of the world. These people's physical fitness is no different from that of ordinary people. The power of their spells is not bad, and it is already the power of the spells of high-level wizard apprentices, but their spells are likely to be effective only in this world. After leaving here, these half-hearted spellcasters will become ordinary people again. Seeing that the two were about to leave, Allen flew up and followed them. Allen followed the group to a stronghold, which was a gothic building. Here he found more than a dozen wizards. This was an office. From time to time, wizards accepted tasks and went to deal with some emergencies. Allen quietly slipped into the archive room. The archive room was located in a corner. It looked ordinary. A large number of documents were randomly piled up in a disorderly manner. Except for a few commonly used filing cabinets, other places were covered with thick dust. It was obvious that no one had touched it for at least decades. He took out a file at random. On November 9, 1965, a black wizard who violated the wizard was captured. The battle between the two sides caused power equipment failure, and a large-scale power outage occurred in New York. Hundreds of witnesses witnessed the battle between the two sides in the air. Finally, the Department of Magical Affairs and the Muggle president jointly handled it. A day later, the newspaper reported on a large scale that a UFO appeared over Manhattan, New York, successfully diverting the public's attention. On July 19, 1976, the last live album Elvis in Concert by the mixed blood vampire and famous singer Elvis Presley was released, and then he entered the wizard world and lived in seclusion. After looking through a lot of archives, Allen found that many events in human society involved wizards. Basically, wizards would use various methods to cover up the incidents afterwards. If they couldn't cover it up, they would discuss with the president of the human world to come up with a seemingly reasonable explanation. Allen also saw a lot of familiar names in it: Albus Dumbledore, Minerva McGonagall, Harry Potter, etc. When he saw these names, he knew that this world was actually the world in the book Harry Potter. It's just a pity that he came too late. It's already 2012. The main plot of Harry Potter has ended. The male protagonist has become the Minister of Magic, and the villain Voldemort has been solved long ago. However, Allen is very interested in Voldemort's Horcrux production. This method of dividing one's soul into several parts is very similar to the method of Lich, but the greater the defect, the more splits will cause cautious splits, temperament changes and many other sequelae, so it's good to study them. The biggest discovery in these archives is various magical creatures. This world has phoenixes, dragons, unicorns, elves, and other magical creatures, but for the dragons here, Allen doesn't think they deserve this title. The dragons in this world cannot use spells, have low IQs, can breathe fire, and have wings to fly. Apart from that, they have no terrifying powers, and are even kept as pets by wizards. The same is true for the phoenix. In the multiverse, the phoenix is a powerful divine creature. It is the embodiment of fire, powerful, sacred, and beautiful. Some people call them immortal birds because they have powerful regenerative abilities and can even be reborn after being fatally injured. However, they will have a weak period after rebirth. Adult phoenixes are more powerful than dragons. In the multiverse, they have different names. Some call them phoenixes, some call them immortal birds, and some call them ashes of Aofa. But no one will question their strength. Allen, the phoenix in this world, found that they did not master the element of fire. Although they also have the ability to be reborn, their strength is far worse. Unicorns are also rare in the multiverse, and most of them appear in the forests where elves live. Allen became very interested in these creatures. After secretly learning a lot of spells, he left here directly. In this world, dragon beasts are mostly distributed in Europe. Since the prohibition of wizards raising dragons decree was passed, it has been difficult for wizards to obtain fire dragons. Wizards have built fire dragon protection areas. The number of fire dragons in other areas is very small. There are special management departments here. If Allen wants to obtain dragon beasts, he can only go to these places. The closest to here is the venomous dragon. Most of the venomous dragons live in Peru. As its name suggests, its teeth are poisonous. The scales of the venomous dragon are smooth and brass colored. There is a black ridge on the back and horns on the head. This kind of dragon is the smallest in the world and reproduces quickly and in large numbers. Allen took a plane directly to Peru. Peru has a long and narrow land with a narrow east-west gap. 1/3 of the land is mountainous. The famous Andes Mountains run across the north and south. The venomous dragon lives in the tropical rainforest in the northeast. Because he already knew the location of the reserve, Allen did not rush around like a headless fly and went directly into the tropical rainforest. The Muggle shielding spell was cast here, so ordinary people would ignore this area directly. It was easy to enter the protected area. The dragons in this world were very weak. After scanning the chip for a while, Allen easily found one, which was about 4.5 meters long. Windbinding. A light blue wind element appeared and directly imprisoned it, and then it was easily caught. He took out an iron ingot, snapped his fingers, and the elemental flame emerged out of thin air, melting the iron ingot to make a birdcage, and cast a transformation spell on the venomous dragon. In an instant, the 4-meter-long venomous dragon turned into a small parrot. After putting it in the birdcage, Allen caught a few more, then found a few nests, selected 5 eggs with the strongest vitality, and then prepared to leave quietly. "Stop. Who are you?" Just as Allen had just put away the dragon eggs, a loud shout came from the air. 2 wizards riding brooms in the sky approached quickly. "Don't be nervous. I just borrowed a few dragons to study. Not that I won't return them. There's no need to be so nervous," Allen said with a relaxed expression without any guilt for being caught as a thief. Chapter 180 Borrowing Fire Dragon. Strange Wizard. According to the law promulgated by the International Confederation of Wizards in 1790 prohibiting wizards from raising dragons, private dragon raising is no longer allowed. You are now breaking the law. If you don't stop immediately and explain to the Ministry of Magic, we will make this decision for you." A tall and thin wizard picked up his wand and said, "It's just a few dragons, not Voldemort destroying the world. What's the matter? Just pretend you didn't see it, or I'll give you a copy of the research data." Allen curled his lips. The International Confederation of Wizards. Strange wizard, you still don't plan to hand over the dragon now? Seeing Allen's nonchalant look, another wizard also took out his wand. "It's really troublesome, but I still want to say that if you do, you will definitely regret it." As a qualified wizard, he often fights with poachers in these dragon protection areas. His combat literacy is still very high, and the two cooperate very well. The wizards immediately realized what they should do. He raised his wand and chanted the spell loudly. "Drown. Silence." Allen had already cast the spell before he finished half of the spell. Allen had long discovered that a silence spell could solve a large number of wizards in this world. Jim and Hanks, who were a beat slower, opened their mouths awkwardly, like dehydrated goldfish, opening and closing, looking extremely ridiculous, and making no sound. Finding that they could not make any sound, both of them were shocked and incredible. "Damn, what kind of spell is this?" Seeing the two people with a look of seeing a ghost, Allen shrugged and cast 2 more spells. Drown. The 2 unfinished spells were easily cast by Allen. The 2 wizards rolled their eyes and fainted, with disbelief in their minds. "See, I told you that you will regret it." Looking at the 2 people falling to the ground, Allen shook his head, put away a few dragon eggs, and lightly tapped them. A magic firework flew into the sky. "I've called for reinforcement for you. I hope it's not too late. Otherwise, the dragons here wouldn't mind eating a few more pieces of meat. See you again." Sensing the magic fluctuations coming from afar, Allen waved his wand. A beam of light rose, and the figure disappeared. "You said that a few venomous dragons were stolen from your dragon sanctuary." Ms. Bonescu, sent by the Bucharest Magical Creature Management Department, said while sitting on the magic bench. "There is only one opponent. He is not a dark wizard, and he can use the silencing magic." Gentlemen, this sounds so incredible. In fact, this really happened. Jim sat there with his vision a little dazed, and spoke hysterically. "That wizard. He didn't use a wand, he just pointed his finger, and Hanks and I said that no sound could be made. Merlin, if he hadn't used the fainting at the end, I would have thought he was a dark wizard, and I was ready to sacrifice at that time." Well, a wizard who can cast spells without a wand, and can cast spells that we don't know at all. This is a very serious problem. In the room of the South American branch of the Authority for Magical Creatures, Ms. Bonescu was holding a quill pen and recording what happened in a notebook. "Ma'am, I swear this is all true, and I strongly request to apply to the Ministry of Magic to send auras to capture this wizard," Jim said excitedly. The lady shook her head and put down her pen. "Gentlemen, don't get excited. We will evaluate the level of the matter and then decide whether to apply to the Ministry of Magic. Please wait patiently for a moment. Excuse me. Although I know you are busy, I just got a message that I think will help you with what you are talking about now." A wizard walked in and interrupted the conversation. Seeing everyone's eyes shifted to him, the wizard spoke. "Not long ago, we received information from the Australian branch. 3 hours ago, the Fire Dragon Reserve in New Zealand was invaded. There was only one intruder. When he was stealing the protein-eyed Fire Dragon, his spell fluctuations were detected by the magic network. The staff of the reserve immediately rushed to the scene. They caught the intruder, right?" Ms. Bonescu picked up the coffee and took a sip. "No, they were all under the sleeping spell, and they didn't rush over until the branch discovered the abnormality," the wizard said helplessly. "Ahem. Are you sure that's one person? There are at least 10 wizards in the New Zealand Fire Dragon Sanctuary. Are they all sleepwalking?" Ms. Bonescu, who had a calm face just now, choked on her coffee and asked loudly without paying attention to the scattered coffee. "I'm sorry, ma'am, that's indeed a wizard. This wizard controls a spell that we don't know. Our people can't recite the spell at all, and then this wizard solved it calmly alone. See? I said I didn't lie, but you didn't believe it. Now you believe it." Jim next to him looked like he was right. "Ma'am, do we still need to wait?" Charlie, we need to notify the Ministry of Magic now. This matter requires the Magical Security Bureau to take action. Ms. Bonescu ignored Jim's ridicule and immediately said to the wizard, "Okay, ma'am, I'll apply now. After all, they are professionals." Wizard Charlie nodded and agreed, then turned and left. "Then there are the two of you. The matter has been reported. I have something else to do. If you don't have anything to do, please leave." Ms. Bonescu, expressionless, said directly. Next, Allen began to capture dragon beasts all over the world. He left the Peruvian Fire Dragon Reserve with a teleportation spell and flew directly to New Zealand. Looking at the wizards lying on the ground, Allen made an apologetic expression and shrugged his shoulders and left here directly. However, the white eyes looked very similar to the white dragon, which scared him at first, but the strength was far different from that of the white dragon. Without spending much effort, Allen captured a few fire dragons and took a few fire dragon eggs. Allen turned and left the reserve. The journey was smooth and no wizards jumped out. It seemed that the group of wizards just now was all the staff. May Merlin bless them not to be eaten by the fire dragons as snacks. After a 3-second silence for the group of wizards in his heart, Allen continued his journey happily. After leaving New Zealand, Allen did not take the weak chicken wizard to heart and took out the map to prepare for the next destination. Chinese Fire Dragon, this is it. Seeing the closest one, Allen happily decided on the next target. Chapter 181 Aura. After successfully catching several Chinese fire dragons, Allen prepared to go to Ukraine and Romania. The border between these two countries is the most important fire dragon protection area in the world. Wizards from all over the world study and observe the habits of fire dragons here. Allen came here in casual clothes and dressed as a tourist. The fire dragon protection area is located in the Carpathian Mountains at the border between the two countries. Romanian longhorned dragons and Ukrainian iron-bellied dragons mainly live here. The horns of longhorned dragons are a precious raw material for magic potions. Because of their huge profits, wizards often come here to poach, so there are many guards in the protection area here. Along the way, Allen pretended to be a tourist and followed the tour group to the Carpathian Mountains. After entering the mountains, Allen flashed and disappeared into the woods. This is it. These wizards shielding muggle spells are not bad. There is no human activity in this area. Allen looked around and went directly into the protection area. As the largest fire dragon protection area, there are many wizards doing research here. Allen sensed that he encountered two in this area. Without alarming these wizards, Allen began to collect dragon eggs. There are wizards patrolling in the sky every once in a while. Basically, every fire dragon has a collar, which records its age, number and other information. Seeing the patrol wizard leave, Allen immediately took action and captured a fire dragon neatly. Then he put it into the birdcage and continued to capture other fire dragons. Team leader, magic fluctuations have been found in area C11. Okay, I got it. Patrol team, please pay attention. Who is in area C11? There is a magic fluctuation there. The patrol personnel around will deal with it. The wizard took out a mirror, which was divided into more than a dozen small pieces, and a figure appeared in each small piece. Several patrol teams around received the news and quickly gathered here. The group came to the place where Allen cast the spell for the first time, and only found some dragon footprints. Traces appear. Many footprints appeared on the ground, extending from inside. He didn't leave. He went inside. What a bold fellow. He poached the fire dragon, but didn't run away quickly. He went deeper. Should I say you are brave or stupid? Let's go quickly, catch up with this poacher, and then hand him over to the wizard court. Several patrol members took out brooms and flew directly in the direction where Allen left. After catching an iron belly, Allen was in a good mood. The fire dragons here are of good quality, fat and strong. With this one, he has already caught 4. Allen will leave after catching a few more. We can't kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. Sustainable development is the model advocated in the 21st century. Allen also agrees with this statement. At this moment, he suddenly stopped moving, and a strange feeling appeared in Allen. He instantly realized that he was being stared at by something. He snapped his fingers lightly. Mind shield. Then a grey spiritual light was ejected, and a finger flicked, and a spiritual light flew directly over, and the two lights directly cancelled out. Several spell waves came from afar, and Allen frowned. We've been discovered again. It seems that we have to use the old method to solve it. At the edge of his vision, Allen saw 4 figures riding brooms approaching quickly. After a while, Allen had seen their appearance clearly. Poacher, you have been surrounded. Don't struggle in vain, otherwise you will spend the rest of your life in prison. The leading wizard shouted loudly from a distance. Why do I feel like I'm watching a police and gangster movie in the Lighthouse country? I'm afraid this person has watched too many police and gangster movies. Allen curled his lips when he heard this person's shouting. Where is the fire dragon? Where did you hide the fire dragon? Seeing that Allen did not take out his wand, these people began to look for the fire dragon. Even if you hide the fire dragon, you can't escape punishment. Now come with us to the management department. Hey, I'm actually a peace lover. I just want to study the fire dragon. Why is such a simple request rejected? It's impossible for me to go with you. I still have a lot of things to study, so fall to the ground. Several red lights were instantly activated and directly hit the 4 patrol members. After dealing with these people, Allen, who knew he had been discovered, stopped hiding and started to capture the dragon. Time went back to 10 minutes ago, when Allen was discovered by the surveillance personnel of the Dragon Reserve. A team of auras also came to the reserve. Charlie, we lie. We just received a report from the Magical Creatures Management Office that a powerful poacher is poaching dragons in various reserves. 3 reserves have been stolen. We have been ordered to come here for support. Hello, Mr. Aura. We just found a poacher and have sent a patrol to capture him. I believe there will be results soon. I don't think support is needed here. You should go to where you are more needed. Charlie was not interested in these auras and didn't want them to interfere in the affairs here. This poacher is not an ordinary wizard. He is stronger than most dark wizards. Although there are no casualties, it does not mean it is safe. I hope you will think carefully. I said that our good guys can solve all the difficulties here. We don't need your help. Boss, the magic network detected that our people fought with poachers. 4-1. This is an easy battle. Charlie raised his head high after hearing the report from his men. He glanced at the group of auras. His expression seemed to say, look, we solved it easily. Boss, something is wrong. We seem to have failed. Failed? This is impossible. Where are they located? The leading aura walked over directly. In area C11. Picking up the topographic map in one hand, the team of auras turned and left. Stop, this is a fire dragon protection area. You can't do this. Charlie shouted angrily after reacting. But this group of people did not stop at all and flew directly to area C11. Allen caught a fire dragon, cast a transformation spell, put it into a birdcage, and flew up directly, preparing to catch the last one. The figure of a wizard appeared in the distance. Seeing Allen's figure from afar, several people dispersed and surrounded Allen. They already knew that Allen could use silence, so they all dispersed. Sensing the energy fluctuations from afar, the spell levels of these people were compared. In the wizard world, only the leader reached the first level wizard, but his physical fitness was much worse. If he really encountered it, he would be completely beaten. Allen didn't take it seriously at all. After seeing Allen, Rostaku waved his hand without saying anything. Several people raised their wands and aimed at Allen, and red rays shot directly at Allen. Energy protection. The red beams hit the spell barrier in front of Allen, and the spell barrier rippled in circles, and the spell effect did not take effect. Chapter 182 Aura 2. It's my turn to faint on the ground. Allen flicked his hand and several red lights shot out directly. Armor protection. Almost instantly, these auras cast this spell. The red light hit directly, but the moment it came into contact with them, their hearts sank. As elite wizards, these people have been fighting against dark wizards for many years. This spell is the most used, and has been used to perfection by them. Although they have blocked the sleeping spell, the armor protection has become shaky. Quick! Suppress him and don't let him attack again. Seeing this situation, the leading aura shouted loudly. Faint on the ground. The wizards raised their staffs and shouted, and 6 red lights flew towards Allen. The sleeping spell can make people or animals fall into a deep sleep instantly. Allen found that this spell is less effective for animals or people with larger bodies and higher physical fitness. These auras have been fighting against dark wizards for many years and are proficient in controlling this spell. Several red lights directly blocked the space for Allen to hide. Allen smiled slightly and pointed at one of the auras. Apparate. The space twisted. Allen and the aura had exchanged positions. The red light of the sleeping spell instantly hit his body. The armor protection spell broke after just a moment, and the next 5 red lights all sank into his body. The aura rolled his eyes and fell directly from the air. TSK, TSK, so pitiful, he will probably have to stay in the hospital for half a year after falling from such a high place. Allen said gloatingly. Jimmy. The other auras exclaimed, looking at Allen with unprecedented solemnity. The spell of apparate was improved by Allen, based on the apparition of this world. Based on the rules of this world, this spell can only be used in this world. Seeing that Allen could actually use this spell, several auras did not dare to use their full strength, fearing that they would accidentally hurt friendly forces if they were not careful. It's so boring. Is this the aura who boasted so much? There is not even one who can fight. Allen pouted and looked at these embarrassed wizards with a mocking tone. After several battles with the wizards of this world, Allen is already completely familiar with their fighting style. These wizards do not use reconnaissance, blockade, control, weakening, or gain. They rely on flying carpets or brooms to maneuver, and their only weapon is a magic wand. When they fight, they shoot at each other. The weaker one relies on the armor spell to resist, and the stronger one dodges in advance. This style looks like the visual sense of the police and gangster movies in Hong Kong and Taiwan. You shoot, I shoot, and it depends on who has better shooting skills in the end. With the flying broom, the movement speed is greatly increased. After being completely familiar with their operation, Allen no longer intends to continue playing. Gravity spell. A force appeared out of thin air, covering the auras flying on the brooms. The speed that was originally quite agile suddenly slowed down, and then a series of red lights came in an instant, breaking the protective armor spell, and the next one hit their bodies directly. These auras had no time to react at all, and all were hit. Their bodies stagnated and fell directly from mid-air. After dealing with these flies, Allen stretched his muscles and caught a few dragons. Then, a spiritual light rose and he disappeared. Recently, dragon thieves have frequently attacked major dragon sanctuaries around the world. The major sanctuaries have pursued and intercepted them, but without any results. Instead, the dragon thieves have repeatedly succeeded. There are even some rumors that the dragon thieves are not just one person, but a group of premeditated and planned teams. The dragon sanctuaries around the world are trembling in their shadows. Merlin, who can tell me that those auras are just there to eat? They have been fighting against dark wizards for years, but they can't do anything about a dragon thief. They also exaggerate the strength of this group of people. They actually said that this was done by one person. Oh my god, this is really a joke. I think even if Merlin is resurrected, he can't be so powerful. These people have lost their face to shirk responsibility. The Daily Prophet. After being surrounded by auras and then beaten by Allen, this group of unconvinced auras prepared more people to ambush Allen. But if fighting can be won only by numbers, then why should I learn magic? Naive. The fate of these people can be imagined. When they were in Norway, Allen sensed it in advance. After a large-scale silence, the world became quiet. After Allen left, there was a group of wizards sleeping peacefully. The sleep quality of this group of people was too poor. Allen helped them make up for their sleep. No need to thank me, I'm a good person. After a series of failures, this group of people still did not give up. However, after more than 100 people were wiped out, these people turned a blind eye to Allen's behavior of catching the fire dragon, which made Allen think that these people were preparing some conspiracy again. As a result, these protected areas directly ignored Allen, and even pretended not to see Allen flying in. Allen, who was ignored by no one, looked bored. He caught a few fire dragons and left directly. After Allen left, the wizards in these protected areas breathed a sigh of relief, and finally sent this demon away. Green dragons in Wales. Black dragons in the Hesperidian Islands. Hungarian horntail dragons. Oh yes, this kind of dragon is said to be very delicious for roasting chestnuts. Norwegian ridgeback dragons. Romanian longhorned dragons. Swiss short-nosed dragons. Ukrainian ironbelly. Spanish Catalonia fireball dragons. Portuguese long-nosed dragons. The Chinese fire dragon has captured several dragon beasts of all kinds in this world. After looking at the harvest, Allen nodded with satisfaction, and then came to the wizarding world of the British country. This time he was going to buy some things here. There are also many magical plants in this world. Allen did not have time to collect them all over the world. As the most advanced and powerful wizarding country in the world, the things here are also the most complete. Diagon Alley, magic plant store, bought all the plant seeds, and also bought a few books about magic plants. Turned around and left. For this wizarding world, there are many weird regulations. It is better to ban the large-scale use of muggle items. Allen thinks these people are really antiques. Things like mobile phones are much faster than magic mirrors and flu powders. They don't even use them. There is also currency. It is already the 21st century and metal currency is still used here. They just need to do a little work to upgrade the financial system. Allen shook his head and went directly to the nearby upside down alley. There are many contraband items that can be bought here. Many things that are not available in Diagon Alley can be found with some effort. Allen ordered a phoenix egg in a store and left with the things. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 183 Cultivating Fire Dragon. In Pengcheng, China, Allen, who had stolen a large number of fire dragons from various protected areas, had just entered from Hong Kong Island. As for those birds, they had already been transported to China. Without Allen's removal of the spell, these fire dragons were just some cute little birds. Allen used Lin Mu's name to register a biotechnology company here. The company was not big. As the most open window of Chinese technology, a large number of high-tech companies were established here every day. Allen easily obtained approval. The name was Umbrella Biomedical Technology Company. In fact, this was a shell company. Allen was the only one in the entire company. He rented a warehouse and converted it into a laboratory. Allen was going to study the fire dragons in this world. If you want to do your job well, you must first sharpen your tools. Allen got many of the most advanced instruments and equipment in the United States. These were things that money couldn't buy, but Allen had to deal with these instruments first. These instruments were all technological creations. Allen was going to use magic pattern technology to enchant their surfaces. After enchanting, the instruments would not only improve their performance, but also increase their service life. After all, it is not easy to get these instruments. If they are broken, Allen will not repair them. Therefore, the best way is to add the repairing technique to all of them. Then, they can be repaired with a snap of fingers. After a week, Allen finally finished enchanting this batch of instruments, and then installed and debugged them. With a wave of his hand, Allen came to the prison, where the fire dragons were imprisoned. A confinement technique trapped this big guy over 6 meters long. He took out a syringe and drew a tube of blood. After packaging more than 10 different types of fire dragon blood, Allen began to observe their blood. As expected, more than 90% of the blood of all the fire dragons in this world is no different from that of wild beasts, and no blood runes were found at all. In order to find the blood runes, a large amount of blood needs to be purified, so the miserable life of these fire dragons imprisoned here began. Every day, they had to consume a lot of food and then draw blood. In the chip scan, the maximum value of these fire dragons was drawn every time. In just 2 months, these fat and strong fire dragons became skinny. If they were discovered by the wizards of this world, there would be another kind of fire dragon in this world, the skeleton dragon. Seeing these dozens of fire dragons that were already listless, shaky, and skinny, Allen finally showed mercy and let them go temporarily, waiting for them to be fattened up before continuing. Put dozens of liters of blood into a special separator and start the initial separation. This part is to separate most of the useless impurities and strip most of the blood belonging to the beast. Allen is already very skilled in this operation, and long-term research has made these things easy. When this step is over, most of the original dozens of liters of blood have disappeared, leaving only a bottle of crimson viscous liquid. As the liquid sways in the crystal bottle, a little bit of elemental aura emanates from the liquid. This bottle is the blood Allen extracted from one of the fire dragons. After labeling it, it is directly placed in the storage box. Continue to purify the other blood. It took some effort, and a table full of crystal bottles appeared on the experimental table in front of Allen. This level is the limit of blood purification in the wizard world, but for Allen, who has just obtained more advanced equipment, this is only halfway done. After putting the things away, Allen still used these modern technologies for extraction. The enhanced instruments have surpassed the atomic level, and can see the smallest matter at present, quarks, and use these instruments combined with spells to purify. At this point, the blood essence in front of him has become a spiral chain, and the chain forms a pattern, and a magical power is bred in it. The blood chain carries the original blood source of this fire dragon. It is mixed with a large number of other bloods that have been mixed in due to degeneration, mating and reproduction, or other reasons. There are many gene extraction technologies in modern technology. In the proposal of not destroying the blood chain, Allen used several kinds of dissolving enzymes to dissolve some impurities. These impurities lose their activity after welding and slowly sink. Next, dialysis is used to filter out most of these impurities. Then use a high-speed centrifuge to separate, take out the upper solution, and get a relatively pure blood essence. Next, different decomposition enzymes were used to decompose it, and the separation was repeated several times by the dialysis centrifuge. After repeating several times, a crystal test tube appeared in Allen's hand. The whole dozens of liters of blood obtained the high-level blood essence in the test tube in front of him. Gently shaking the test tube, a faint elemental brilliance slowly spread. Without the chip scan, Allen sensed the power contained in it. The drop of blood essence in front of him has reached its current limit. After scanning with the chip, it was found that this blood essence was at least at the level of a first level wizard. This level of blood is already very strong, but compared with Allen's current strength, it is not enough. Taking out a fire dragon egg from the dimensional space, Allen came to a quiet room. The room was empty and there was nothing else. The floor was paved with white marble, and a large number of complex runes were engraved on it. The fire dragon egg was placed in the middle of the rune array and the staff in his hand was lightly tapped. A flash of inspiration passed by, and the formation was activated. A test tube was taken out, which contained the purified blood essence. With a light touch of the hand, the blood essence full of elemental breath flew to the sky above the fire dragon egg, and then slowly fell to the surface of the eggshell. The blood essence was quickly absorbed by the fire dragon egg. As the rune formation operated, a large number of elemental particles were absorbed. Seeing that the blood transplant was successful, Allen slowly breathed a sigh of relief. Next, it depends on how the egg absorbs. After an hour, the elemental particles finally calmed down. This fire dragon egg exuded a power far beyond other fire dragons. 2 weeks later, a dragon beast different from other fire dragons was born. Although the dragon beast is a young dragon, those adult fire dragons are obviously afraid of its breath, and dare not approach it at all. With a large amount of food supply, the young dragon grows very fast. Unlike the growth cycle of hundreds of years for giant dragons, these dragon beasts only need a few years to become adults. Of course, the rapid growth also shows that their potential is not that high. Moreover, although this dragon beast is much stronger than other fire dragons in intelligence, it is still not considered an intelligent creature. His strength is quite good. After reaching adulthood, he can reach the level of a formal wizard, and the power of his fire breath is greatly enhanced. The scales on his body surface also have metallic luster. After testing, these scales can already resist crossbows, and when he reaches adulthood, he may be able to withstand shooting from small caliber firearms. Chapter 184 Cultivating Fire Dragons, added for book friend number 9829. This is a Welsh green dragon. Compared with its kind, its body is larger, with many barbs growing on its joints. Its 2 dragon horns are sharper, and its dark green scales have turned slightly red. Its claws are sharp, and can easily cut through a 2 cm steel plate. Its strength has also been enhanced. This is already a brand new species. Allen rebred more than a dozen fire dragons and obtained more than a dozen powerful fire dragons. These fire dragons are close to the level of their ancestors. Research on these dragon beasts found that these dragon beasts have a common ancestor. Allen's bloodline has been purified to the limit, and if he wants to go further, he can only make a breakthrough in Allen's power. If he wants to go further, he needs to be able to fuse these fire dragon bloodlines. It took 2 years for Allen to breed dozens of adult dragon beasts and began to crossbreed these dragon beasts. After tens of thousands of deductions on the chip, all failed breedings were eliminated and Allen began to crossbreed. Because they needed to control their reproduction, Allen took time to go to Upside Down Alley, where there were many contraband items. If you wanted to buy dragon-inducing plants, you could buy them here, and then go to see if the scheduled phoenix eggs had arrived. The phoenix in this world is a beautiful creature. The only person in the wizarding world who raised a phoenix was the former dean of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Dumbledore, but his phoenix disappeared after his death. Some wizards also got phoenix eggs, but they did not domesticate the phoenix in the end. Leaving a deposit and contact information, Allen left here directly and went back to complete his experiment. The next step was to crossbreed these dragon beasts and get the first batch of hybrid dragon eggs. After incubation, these dragon eggs successfully broke out of the shell, but the results were not very ideal. Some dragon beasts died shortly after birth, and most of the survivors were weak and far inferior to their parents. It is obvious that this hybrid experiment failed. Allen was not discouraged. He was prepared for failure when conducting the experiment. He extracted the blood of the failed product and threw it directly into the incinerator to purify and recycle the blood. After experiencing many problems such as dead eggs, deformities, disabilities, congenital defects, blood rejection, etc., Allen finally obtained the first batch of relatively successful hybrid dragon beasts. These dragon beasts were not much stronger than their parents, but they were not weakened either. The first success made Elu in a good mood. The next step is to continue to cultivate and finally obtain strong young. After dozens of breedings, Allen successfully fused these dozen fire dragon bloodlines. The fused bloodline finally lived up to the word dragon. After testing, the strength of these bloodlines was already at the level of a second level wizard. After using various equipment to remove impurities in the bloodline, Allen obtained a bottle of bloodline essence shining with the light of colorful element. After using the chip to deduce a large amount of data, Allen found that the dragon eggs of the black dragons of the Hexader Islands had the highest fusion rate, and selected a dragon egg with the strongest vitality for bloodline implantation experiment. It went very smoothly. The dragon egg was completely fused with the bloodline. The fused dragon egg did not hatch according to the scheduled time limit, but fell into silence. If Allen had not tested it and found that its vitality did not weaken, but began to increase, he would have thought that the dragon egg had become a dead egg. After research, it was found that the dragon egg had already left the category of fire dragons. It would not hatch until the bloodline was completely fused, which might take some time. Allen put the dragon egg in the dimensional space and ended the bloodline cultivation. It has been 4 years since he came to this world. Allen has gained a lot of benefits. The energy required for crossing has been full. He is ready to leave, but there are still some things to deal with before leaving. First, a large number of fire dragons cultivated in the prison need to be dealt with. Some of these fire dragons are formal wizard level, and the others are normal fire dragons. Allen is going to release them back to nature. There is also news about the phoenix eggs that Allen ordered in the Upside Down Alley. It is said that they will be seen in a few days. After turning these fire dragons into birds again, Allen took these things and prepared to release them into the protected area. After all, these fire dragons were borrowed from these protected areas. Now that they have been used, of course they must be returned. Allen is a wizard with good reputation. As for the extra fire dragons, they are all interest. I believe that these wizards will definitely have ways to deal with the stronger fire dragons. Aren't there auras? They will definitely solve it. Allen said, I believe in their strength. Also in China, Allen left a few wizard inheritances, made some simple magic props, and then injected a spiritual force into them, which contained a complete wizard inheritance. Mixing these rings, necklaces and other small accessories in the roadside stalls, Allen left irresponsibly. As for who will get these things, it depends on their luck. Go to Upside Down Alley to collect the phoenix egg. This egg is actually very similar to the egg that Allen got in the pyramid ruins, but this egg has a strong vitality and can be hatched. As for what Allen got, it was basically a dead egg. He tried many methods in the past few years and failed to hatch this egg. In the end, the fate of this egg was very rough. It was made into a golden egg fried rice by Allen. The golden egg liquid wrapped with the best rice, with ham, carrots, vegetables, and chives, stir-fried in hot oil until golden. The fragrance made the kids next door cry. You may not believe it, but the best way to eat phoenix eggs is to make fried rice. You only need one to make a big pot of fried rice, with ham, carrots, and vegetables. The taste is sweet, and the taste of various ingredients is perfectly blended together. The phoenix eggs are actually a bit sweet, but they taste great. Next time, you can consider making some cakes. Burp. I need another drink. In Switzerland, after releasing the last batch of fire dragons, Allen said goodbye to these little cuties in tears, but these fire dragons seemed to have encountered some terrifying demon king, and they fled from Allen one by one. These fire dragons that were locked up for a long time to extract blood had already felt that their lives were dark, but this time they finally encountered the dawn of light and ran away without a trace. Looking at the protective forest that was jumping around, Allen felt that the wizards here would be busy for a long time. Without any guilt, Allen prepared to leave with the benefits of this world. He summoned the system interface and clicked to return. A burst of light enveloped Allen, and his figure disappeared in an instant. Chapter 185 Leaving. Southeast Sea, Salt Islands, Port Callan. When a space fluctuation came from the meditation room in the wizard tower, Allen appeared in the room. Seeing that the surrounding state was the same as when he left, Allen nodded, waved his hand gently, and the closed door opened directly. Connecting to the tower spirit of the wizard tower, Allen learned the operation of the wizard tower after he left. The most obvious thing was that the empty warehouse was now filled with various materials. This time he left for a few years, and a whole year had passed in the wizard world. Sensing the location of the little maid, he directly asked the tower spirit to pass the message and notify her to come over. The little maid in leather armor soon appeared in the study. After seeing Allen, she saluted slightly and said, "Master, you are out of retreat." "Yes. Report to me what happened after my retreat." Allen smiled and rubbed the little maid's head, messing up her soft black hair. The little maid rolled her eyes and tidied up her messy hair. Earl Anthony is very trustworthy. The supplies are delivered on time every month. 2 teams of rock puppet golems take turns to mine. Now we have rich reserves of various minerals. By the way, those free-range gold-eating beasts have begun to reproduce. The first little gold-eating beast was born last week. The magic plants in the botanical garden are also growing normally. After a while, the first batch of mature ones can be picked. Looking at the little maid who was talking in front of him, Allen nodded with satisfaction. Although her strength was average, as a backup mistress, she was quite good at management. And now living in this elemental active area, the drow elf blood in her body is gradually awakening. Allen felt that maybe within a year, she would be promoted to the first level wizard level. Some elemental creatures appeared in front of the element pool a while ago. They have been solved by 2 steel golems. Also, the Dean of the Five Rings Tower, Mr. Alfred, successfully advanced to the legendary level some time ago. This is the news that Ms. Lilith sent to you. The master was in seclusion at the time, so I didn't inform you immediately. The Dean has advanced to the legendary level. This is good news. Is the Five Rings Tower going to start expanding outward? Allen was moved when he learned that the Dean had advanced to the legendary level. It seems that this world has also entered the elemental tide period. During this period, the energy of the entire world has begun to become active, and the probability of wizards appearing and the success rate of advancement will be greatly increased. Are you bored after staying here for so long? Allen looked at the little maid and said casually, "No, it's okay here. There is no conspiracy and betrayal from the underground world. I think it's pretty good. The little maid shook her head and whispered. Allen smiled and looked out at the sea in the distance, saying, haha, it's nothing. The road of the strong is always boring, so we need to find some fun for ourselves. Although I have been here for a long time, I still occasionally think of the past days. There are still too few entertainment things in this place, where technology is not developed. The little maid didn't speak, and her two charming big eyes looked at Allen without blinking. After sighing, Allen stretched out his hand to pinch the little maid's pointed ears, and then withdrew his hand before the little maid exploded. He felt the smoothness and softness on his fingers, and waved his hand. Let's go to the element pool, and see if we can give you another playmate. Playmate? What? Other maids? Why didn't I see them? The little maid looked at Allen with suspicion, and followed her unreliable master to the basement. The third floor of the basement is the element pool of the wizard tower. The abundant element energy fills the surroundings. Countless element particles enter the body when breathing, and then slowly drift out. There is even some sweetness of element energy in the mouth, and some element energy also remains in the body with breathing. This is an area with abundant and active element. Living here will unconsciously transform the body with elemental energy, making it easier to absorb elemental energy. Meditation here will be more effective. However, long-term residence will also cause the body to be overly dependent on elemental energy. Once you leave the area with abundant element, you will experience various negative effects, such as weakness, discomfort, and mental madness. In severe cases, you will even become a monster with a twisted mind. So although there are many benefits to living here, Elu did not do it. He brought the little maid to the element pool in the basement. At this time, the element pool had been charged long ago. The normal operation of the wizard tower did not consume much energy. A lot of energy was stored here. The light blue liquid in the pool rippled slightly. Allen snapped his fingers and the isolation cover was slowly retracted. He came to the element pool and took out an ostrich egg-sized egg from the dimensional space. There were circles of fiery red patterns on it, which looked full of mystery. As soon as the egg was taken out, the rich elemental energy around it slowly entered the eggshell. The energy around it was shrinking, as if it was breathing. This egg is exactly the phoenix egg obtained from the upside down alley in the last world. The Harry Potter world belongs to the low magic plane. It is a miracle for Allen to be able to survive. Although it was found after research that the phoenix here is not the powerful and beautiful creature in the legend, Allen found that the life potential of this kind of phoenix is still good. In such a low magic plane, there are first level wizards. The abundant elemental energy here will promote its evolution. Allen is already looking forward to its birth. Master, what kind of egg is this? The little maid asked curiously when she saw Allen taking out an egg. Turkey eggs, how about it? Do you want to eat it? Allen joked when he saw the little maid's look. Turkey? What is that? Is it delicious? The little maid looked at Allen with a confused face. Delicious. Of course it's delicious. This is a rare delicacy. Thinking of the dead egg eaten in the Harry Potter world, Allen secreted a lot of saliva in the air. Fragrant and smooth, slightly sweet, that taste. Suck. I can't think about it anymore. If I think about it, I will not be able to help but eat this egg. Shaking his head to get rid of this idea, Allen straightened his clothes. Okay, stop watching. Wait until the turkey hatches and let her lay lots of eggs for you to eat. Allen took the phoenix egg and placed it in the element pool. A white marble platform slowly rose in the element pool, and the phoenix egg was placed in the center. This was the most active place in the element pool. After the phoenix egg was placed, the surrounding element particles quickly poured into it, and the entire egg was soon submerged in the element energy. After a while, a small vortex appeared around the stone platform. Then it expanded and contracted as if breathing. Some rune arrays were arranged near the marble platform, and the tower spirit was monitored at all times. The two left the element pool. Chapter 186 Extracting Divinity. Allen embedded the magic gems into the energy nodes one by one. With a faint light, the central crystal restarted once. Optimization completed. Allen rubbed his shoulders, his voice full of joy. During this period, Allen began to slowly optimize the energy transmission nodes of the wizard tower. Although he calculated many times when designing it, there were still some discrepancies in the operation afterwards. After recalculating with the chip, based on the data collected by the tower spirit, Allen optimized the wizard tower. When it was first built, many places were designed a little rough, and some parts had to make a lot of compromises due to the lack of materials. During this period, many materials were collected, and Allen upgraded those weak parts again. Tower spirit. Conduct trial operation. The wizard tower starts. The element pool transmits energy. The defense barrier starts. The rune array is charged. As the cold mechanical sound of the tower spirit sounded, the wizard tower began to operate again. Many of the materials used in this optimization were exchanged from the Five Rings tower. Allen sold some of the materials he got from other worlds in exchange for a lot of resources. Some of the materials in those worlds are scarce in the wizard plane, and Allen earned a lot of things from them. If you rely on yourself to collect, it may take hundreds of years to build a wizard tower, but now Allen only spent 1 year. A lot of time is saved, and the wizard tower is put into use as soon as possible, which brings great benefits to Allen. Allen got the information of the floating ring into this, and even improved it by combining the technology of the wizard world. The energy circuit inside has also been improved and optimized with chips. Compared with the original floating ring of the same size, the power has increased by about 20%, and the energy consumption has also decreased by 3% to 5%. This is the design data. The actual data may be slightly different, but the difference will not be too big. More importantly, it is still the materials. Many materials are still in short supply. Magic steel is okay. A lot of it has been collected, but there is still a lot of lack of arcane crystals and mystic dust. As for the sand of the Star Elm, there is no shortage of mithril, because I dug a vein last time, but there is still a lot of lack of magic gems. Allen has a lot of materials that are in short supply in the wizard world, such as soul crystals, rare magic potions, and even divine crystals, but these things are also in short supply for him, just like divine crystals, which no one will think are too little. Tower spirit. Report on the operation of the wizard tower. The wizard tower is operating normally. Energy consumption has been reduced by 3%. Energy conversion efficiency has increased by 18.7%. Rune barrier strength has increased by 16%. And wizard tower strength has increased by 13.6%. After hearing the report from the tower spirit, Allen slowly breathed a sigh of relief. The hard work during this period was worth it. At this time, the wizard tower has been optimized to Allen's current highest level. If you want to go further, you need more knowledge. After optimizing the wizard tower, Allen rested for a day. The next day, in the laboratory of the wizard tower, Allen was already standing in front of the alchemy table and took out a dark green crystal from the dimensional space. It was the soul crystal obtained in the last world. With the appearance of the divine crystal, countless phantoms appeared around, and there seemed to be some low whispers in the air. HMPH. With a cold snort, a spiritual light spread out like a ripple, and all the strange phenomena around disappeared. Put the divine crystal in the rune array that has been carved on the alchemy table. Take out the staff and tap it lightly. The three-dimensional image of the entire wizard tower appeared in front of you. Tower spirit. Activate the element pool, open the magic nodes 28 to 96, and open the energy channel of the laboratory. A huge amount of elemental energy slowly rose, and the energy of the entire laboratory became abnormally abundant. He directly activated the rune array on the ground, and manipulated a lot of energy to slowly inject it into the alchemy table. Soul imprisonment. With the huge energy torrent, the staff waved by Allen's hand became slower and slower. The last silver chain shot out, and in an instant, souls were pulled out from the soul crystals. These were all sacrifices to the ogre tree. These souls were incomplete, many were twisted, and some were even left with only half of their souls. He casually pulled these residual souls into the crystals, and then continued to extract the divine crystals. Soul absorption. A huge tree-like soul slowly emerged, followed by a stream of dark green soul energy with a hint of blood red flowing into Allen's body like a trickle. These powers were filled with bloodthirsty, greedy, and chaotic emotions, most of which were the product of blood sacrifice. After these emotions, a trace of light green energy slowly flowed into Allen's body, and Allen felt a vibrant energy flowing into his body, as if he was in a rainforest. This was the original power of the ogre tree, but it was later contaminated by those powers because of the blood sacrifice of the natives. Mechanized mind. With the infusion of soul power, a large number of negative emotions began to interfere with Allen's mind. After noticing these influences, Allen directly activated the rune array carved on the ground. Allen could not cast this spell yet, and could only release it with the help of the rune array. After blessing the mechanized mind, Allen had become an absolutely rational existence. In this state, he was completely immune to all kinds of mental erosion, and he recontrolled the energy to remove the negative emotions one by one. Otherwise, even if there was no problem now, Allen would still be affected when this spell ended. The energy in the divine crystal is no longer being extracted. Allen's body is temporarily saturated and needs to digest all the energy before it can continue to absorb. As the soul energy is absorbed, a trace of light golden energy also appears in front of him. This is the most important thing in the divine crystal, divinity. If Allen was not in a mechanized mental state, he would have jumped up long ago. He raised his hand and lightly tapped, and a trace of light golden power slowly merged into Allen's body. Divinity is one of the most magical powers in the multiverse. It can make creatures transcend the mundane world and possess magical powers. It is said that there are divine dragons in the multiverse. This kind of dragon is not only strong and powerful, but also close to the power of gods. As a trace of light golden energy is injected into the soul, Allen's soul undergoes a strange change. When the soul feels a little full, Allen slowly stops absorbing. A trace of divine power slowly merges into the soul, and the red dragon blood in the body is also activated. The faint golden light merges into the blood, and Allen's blood takes on a trace of golden luster. After all the energy was absorbed, Allen withdrew his mechanized mind. After the spell disappeared, a large number of emotions instantly flooded into his mind. His brain felt swollen and painful for a while, and it took him a while to recover. Chapter 187 Apprentice. Put away the divine crystal. There is about half of the power left in this divine crystal. Next time it can be fully absorbed, scan the physical condition with a chip. There is no obvious change. It is just that it takes about half a month to completely digest these divine energies. In the meditation room, Allen is calming his mind. Although the mechanized mind is very effective, it will cause a great burden on the soul. At the same time, the remaining soul power is also in a mind like his. Now his mind is still full of bloodthirsty and greedy desires. Divine power is an all-round improvement of living things, which will benefit both the body and the soul. The reason why the gods are immortal is largely due to the existence of divine power. These are the ways to use divine power that Allen knows, most of which are obtained from the wizard world. The first batch of wizards who arrived killed most of the divine spirits in this world. There are many studies on divine power. Allen's research on divine power is mostly these materials. Tibis's research in this area is slightly weaker than this world, but it should have developed rapidly after being invaded by the abyss. After all, many demons also have divinity. Allen's cheap mentor is likely to become a demigod lich now. Demigod liches are creatures that have surpassed the legendary level. Most liches are legendary, but they are difficult to advance. Although they have a long lifespan, they will also die of old age. Their souls will gradually dissipate over time. This is almost irreversible, although their dissipation speed is very slow. Many liches will become crazy in the end. But this is not the case with demigod liches. Their souls have undergone essential changes and have a trace of divine characteristics. However, this kind of creature is rare in the multiverse. So far, he only knows of a demigod lich that is about to advance. In the following days, Allen spent some time every day to calm his mind and digest the divine power, and then tease the little maid when he had nothing to do, and then went to check the turkey. No, it was the phoenix egg. The phoenix egg no longer absorbs elemental energy on a large scale. Although it is still absorbing, it is getting less and less. The eggshell has also turned fiery red, and an active life is beating inside the eggshell. Allen thinks this one should hatch soon. Allen did not plan to hatch the other fire dragon egg. He planned to inject some dragon blood into it. The dragon blood contained in this fire dragon was not much, and it could even be said that it was different from the 5-color dragon metal dragon. After many times of cultivation, its dragon blood was still thin. Although it would have the power equivalent to a second level wizard after hatching, its potential was limited, and it would soon fail to keep up with Allen. In the end, it was left to guard the wizard tower. Allen despised his strength. After so long of absorbing, the phoenix's potential has been greatly improved. Allen estimated that it would have the strength of a third level wizard after adulthood, but its potential was still unclear. Time passed quickly. Half a month passed. Allen once again extracted the divine crystal. After this extraction, the divine crystal turned into a gem with a dim luster and exhausted magic power. Allen's mood changed drastically. After absorbing it, he went directly to the meditation room for a treat. Two consecutive extractions still had a great impact on Allen. It was not until a week later that Allen solved the problem and left the meditation room. After absorbing the divine power, Allen's body finally showed a lot of changes. The most obvious one was that his physical fitness had improved a lot. This was just the most basic thing. It was also easier to cast spells. The divine power made his soul and the source seem more closely connected. He also had a vague understanding of the laws of the world. It was easy to cast various spells, and his strength was also improved. After the dragon vein transformation, the improvement was even more significant. The power of the dragon's breath was greatly improved. This can be said to be one of the most powerful spells Allen can cast. After some exercise, Allen got familiar with his body and returned to the academy half a month later. This time he was away for a long time, so it was time to report back. Since Dean Alfred advanced to the legendary level, the Five Rings Tower began to slowly adjust its strategy. The academy now began to invest heavily in underground secrets to expand its influence. Obviously, the Five Rings Tower wanted a status and territory that matched its strength. Therefore, the academy has made a lot of adjustments. In the past, only apprentices with tokens or 4th level qualifications or above would be accepted as disciples by formal wizards, and the others were free range. Now, after joining the academy, they are assigned to formal wizards as apprentices. It seems that the academy lacks a lot of manpower. Not long after Allen came back, he received a letter. This was the third day after returning to the academy. A round-faced fat chicken landed outside his window. The talking round-faced fat chicken can use some simple tricks to assist wizards in dealing with some things and also act as a messenger. This is a magical pet signed by some wizards, but not many wizards do this. Allen frowned when he opened the letter. The thing on it was apprenticeship. Allen assigned to apprentices. Apprentices are generally used to inherit the mantle. The number is small, but it is very important. Generally, few wizards take them, but for those wizard schools that have been passed down for a long time, this is the future of their school and the successor. It is very important, and apprentices follow wizards to learn, without too close a relationship, equivalent to registered disciples. These apprentices will study with Allen for a period of time. This is a mandatory task. Allen curled his lips and decided to accept it. After all, he still needs to use the Five Rings Tower to collect materials. After casually checking the list, Allen selected 2 apprentices. Both apprentices are female, because Allen thinks that compared with male apprentices, women are more well behaved and do not need him to spend too much thought. Of course, he will not say that these 2 apprentices are beautiful. Although he does not intend to spend too much energy, it is also pleasing to the eye to find 2 vases hanging in front of him. If 2 bearded men come, Allen may just throw him out. So, this is also a place to look at faces. Handle us to the teaching hall. Tomorrow these apprentices will come by themselves. Allen only needs to bring the things prepared by the academy for them. As for where to live, it depends on the mood of the tutor. If you are in a good mood, you can live where the tutor lives. If the tutor doesn't like you, then stay away and live in the dormitory. Allen planned to let the 2 of them take care of a small potion field he had opened up in the Five Rings Tower. After all, after sending the little maid to the wizard tower, the potion field here had become somewhat abandoned. Chapter 188 Apprentice 2. The next morning, a 3rd level wizard apprentice came to the ecological park with 2 newbies. Sir Allen. The apprentice saluted when he saw Allen. Sir, these are the 2 apprentices assigned to you. They have been brought here. He pointed to 2 little girls of 13 or 14 years old not far behind him. Allen nodded to indicate that he could go, and then looked at the little girl in front of him who looked a little uneasy. Teacher. The two little girls called a little reservedly. The one who spoke first was a little bolder and looked lively. The other one was a little shy. Seeing Allen's eyes looking at her, she timidly shouted, "Teacher." Allen looked at the two apprentices and said lightly, "Follow me." He turned around and took the two apprentices back to his mushroom house. The two who were a little reserved just now had stars in their eyes when they saw the mushroom house. What a beautiful house. The two little girls became active instantly when they saw the fairy tale style house, pointing at the house, and looked eager to try. "Jess, you live in this house." Allen pointed to a mushroom house next to him and said. Then Allen pointed to another mushroom house next to it and said, "Vivian, you live in this house." After the two little girls looked at the room, Allen continued, "As your mentor, I'm actually very busy and don't want to accept apprentices. But since the academy has issued the task, I will accept it. But this does not mean that you can be perfunctory. As apprentices, I will arrange a schedule for you. There will be assessments every week. You must complete them. Otherwise, although the academy does not allow apprentices to be harmed, I still have many ways to avoid these, such as turning you into a frog. Of course, I will also reward those who perform well and have good grades. You have 3 opportunities to ask me questions every week. Please seize these opportunities. In addition, my library will be open to you. You should know that if you go to the library to learn this knowledge, it will cost a lot of magic stones." Allen smiled, looked at the two nervous little girls and continued, "Now, your first task is to learn several languages in the wizarding world. Old Byron, Nessa, Elf, and Old Sith are all things that need to be mastered. Learn them. Go ahead." Allen distributed a pile of books 1 foot high to the two of them and sent them to study. For apprentices like them who have not even reached the first level wizard apprentice, it is better to wait until they learn the language of the wizard world. The meditation method has been taught to them, but it is good enough for them to enter the state in a month, based on their qualifications. When they advance to the first level apprentice, they can use it. No, they can learn spell templates and then manage his medicine field. Allen spent the next time absorbing divine power. Although it has been integrated into his body, Allen seems to be a little full. The divine power is not digested quickly. In addition to spending some time teaching apprentices, he spends most of his time in the training ground. The overly excited state makes him have a lot of energy to vent. Sometimes he will return to the wizard tower in Callan City to play a friendly match with the little maid. After all, the spells of those drow elves still need the cooperation of the little maid to complete. The 5-colored dragons in adolescence are all quite excited. Young dragons in this period are full of curiosity about the opposite sex. Male young dragons with sufficient hormone secretion will be energetic all day long. Most sub-dragon species are made by dragons in this period. Magical dragon Allen, who has a strong dragon bloodline, is naturally affected. Fortunately, his human soul occupies a dominant position. He will not mess around like the dragons in heat at this period regardless of the place and occasion. However, he will not refuse to verify the actual application of those lully techniques, the art of tentacles, malicious transformation techniques, greasy techniques, and giant transformation techniques. After all, these are very advanced magic skills that can defeat the enemy at a critical moment. For example, if you encounter a succubus as a demon species, their body size is generally huge. At this time, the human body size will be at a great disadvantage against them. How can you deal with it better? At this time, you need a giant transformation technique. If it doesn't work, cast a shrinking technique on her. In this way, 1 + 1- will be in an equal state. Next, you can use the touch of shadow. This spell can well restrict their bodies and bind them into the state you want. At the same time, negative energy will also weaken their strength. Cast another damage deepening, and then fight. The chance of victory is very high. Or if you want to experience a different feeling, you deserve the malicious transformation spell. This spell can turn your enemies into sheep or other small animals at will. Combined with the greasy spell, you can even experience the real goat path. Although he got a lot of these secret books, Allen felt that the methods in these books were still a bit evil. As an upright wizard, he decided to only experience the previous spells, and he would not experiment with the malicious transformation spell. During this period, with the development of the underground secret realm, many wizards have subdued some drow elves. Allen even saw some books on the application of drow elves spells in the trading hall. When he looked through them again, several wizards with wretched faces even wanted to drag Allen to participate in a private party. Of course, Allen refused it sternly. It was so wretched that it would damage his image to be with them. Most wizards of noble origin in this world have become accustomed to these aspects. Many wizards spend more time studying knowledge and improving their strength. The probability of wizards getting married and having children is not high. Only about 1/5 of wizards will get married, and the fertility rate of high-level wizards is very low. This is much worse than the world of Tibis. In the world of Tibis, it is very common for professionals to get married. After all, the children of professionals are also professionals to a large extent. Facing the invasion of demons, lack of manpower has become a very serious problem for them. Ordinary people cannot fight against demons, only those professionals can, and it is also very difficult for ordinary people to have a professional, with a probability of about 1%. However, human professionals need a lot of time to grow, so Tibis is seriously short of manpower, and can only passively defend. If there is no external help, unless they can build a floating city, and rely on the floating city, to fight against the abyss, or the true god comes. But in a war of this level, the gods can only send incarnations at most, and it is not easy to win. Chapter 189 White Dragon. After a refreshing return to the Five Rings Tower. After a rest, Allen is in a good mood. Most of the divinity in his body has been digested, and the rest will be digested within half a month. The turkey in the element pool, oh, it is a phoenix, has stopped absorbing energy. Allen senses that its vital signs are becoming more and more active, and I believe it will be born soon. After training the two little larly leisurely, Allen is going to the task hall to hand in some things. As soon as he walked into the hall, he found that many high-level wizards appeared here. What's the situation? Why are there so many people here? What happened? Allen glanced at these wizards and felt a little strange. High-level wizards are not so idle. Hi, Allen. A pleasant voice came. Allen turned around and saw Lilith waving at Allen happily and then ran over. But when he got closer, he found that he needed to hold his head up to talk to Allen and stepped back a little. Hello, Lilith. Allen, did you get the news too? Lilith said excitedly. News? What news? Allen said inexplicably. You don't know? Then how did you appear here? Lilith was speechless when she saw Allen's puzzled expression. I wanted to come here to exchange some supplies and also post some collection tasks. Allen said casually. By the way, what news did you just say? Hey, the wizards of the academy found a pure-blooded dragon in the underground secret realm. Now the academy is preparing to organize people to kill him. Lilith said to Allen with a mysterious look on her face. Pure-blooded dragon? Allen thought about it and realized that there was a pure-blooded dragon in the underground secret realm, but it seemed to be a white dragon. Yes, a pure-blooded dragon, but this dragon is a white dragon. Lilith said with some regret. Allen rolled his eyes. Although the white dragon is the shame of the dragon clan, it is unknown whether this white dragon in the secret realm that has been closed for so long is an ancient dragon or a great ancient dragon. A white dragon of this level is already legendary. It is not easy to kill a legendary dragon. With just a legendary wizard from the Five Rings Tower, the chances of winning against an ancient dragon or a white dragon of the great ancient dragon level are very low. White dragons of this level have become very cunning, and the power of their frost breath is extremely amazing. Moreover, dragons of this level have mastered many spells over a long period of time. Generally speaking, wizards of the same level are no match for dragons in a one-on-one fight. Of course, those from the floating tower are not included. The Five Rings Tower acted quickly. After all, the underground secret realm does not belong only to the Five Rings Tower. If this pure-blooded dragon is taken by someone else first, it would be a big loss. Pure-blooded dragons are full of treasures. Dragon skin can be used to make robes and armor. Dragon blood is used in some magic potion recipes, or it can be extracted to make a bottle of dragon cave essence. Dragon bones can be made into dragon bone staffs. Dragon horns are also very precious materials, and dragon meat and internal organs are also top quality ingredients in magical cuisine. Dragons are not easy to kill. Most of the dragon slaying cases that are sung are dragons before young dragons, or dragon beasts with similar appearances to dragons. There are not many giant dragons in this world, and even the sub-dragons are rare. While Allen and Lilith were talking, the high-level wizards had already gathered. The personnel in this operation were at least second-level wizards, and a large number of first-level wizards were just going to clean up the sub-dragons or the dragon's followers. The high-level wizards here added up to more than 30 people, led by Alfred, the Dean of the Five Rings Tower. The old man broke through the legend and now looks energetic. After breaking through the legend, his life will undergo a transformation. He looks a lot younger. 4 of the 5 giants of the academy have now been dispatched, and soon a piece of information about the giant dragon was passed out. As Allen expected, this white dragon really stepped into the realm of the ancient dragon. This is a legendary giant dragon. The life of a giant dragon is somewhat strange. Its strength will slowly increase over time. It is an adulthood at around 200 years old, and then it will enter the prime of life. After the giant dragon is 600 years old, it will enter the old age. At this time, the giant dragon likes to use conspiracy and tricks, and it will become an ancient dragon at around 800 years old. The most dangerous period for dragons is after 1000 years. Dragons at this stage belong to the ancient dragons. Their long life makes them master a lot of spells. Their long life makes them experience many things. Dragons at this stage are cunning, powerful, and will also accumulate a huge amount of wealth. After reaching 1200 years old, dragons will enter the period of the ancient dragons. Some dragons at this period will die of old age if they are not rich enough, but those who have not died of old age will become extremely dangerous. Basically, no one will provoke an ancient dragon. As a result, a secret scroll was checked. There is not much information on it. It only explains the spells used by the white dragon and some of its followers. The followers are some frost pterosaurs, about a dozen of them, and some dog-headed people. Dog-headed people are also dragon descendants. Although their blood is pitifully thin, only the best among them will awaken the dragon veins. At this time, the dog-headed people will have some spell-casting abilities. The only advantage of the kobolds is that they can mine, and there are many of them. We will just watch from a distance. Don't rush forward. The dragons are not easy to mess with. We are not the main force. We only need to deal with the servants of the dragons. There are contribution rewards for participating this time, but the most important thing is not to run around and survive. Lilith secretly shared her experience like a thief. It seems that this girl should often make soy sauce and make contributions. However, Allen did not refute it. Being able to make contributions is also a kind of ability. I make contributions based on my ability. What's wrong with that? Soon the wizards gathered. Dean Alfred looked at it and directly opened the teleportation array. As the teleportation array was opened, some wizards from the academy began to adjust the power of the teleportation array. After it stabilized, others entered it one after another. With a flash of white light, Allen had appeared in the underground secret realm again. This is an empty cave, not a stronghold occupied by the academy. It should be directly teleported to the vicinity of the dragon's lair. Among the wizards, Allen also saw Connor, his mentor who knew Allen's combat spell casting. At this time, his elemental fluctuations were already that of a second-level wizard. He had a strong body and held an axe like a door panel. He didn't look like a spellcaster at all. It seemed that he was running further and further on the evil path of a big muscleman. Another familiar person was Catherine, the witch with drow blood. She had a hot body, and many wizards were secretly looking at her. Perhaps they noticed Allen's gaze and turned back to smile at Allen. Oh, Catherine actually smiled at me. Does she have a good impression of me? Bah. She was obviously smiling at me. She was showing that she accepted my pursuit. Get out of here. Don't you look at your small body? Catherine likes strong people like me. Several nearby wizards had already started pushing and shoving, but they knew what kind of occasion it was and didn't dare to do it. Allen avoided the group of people from a distance, and the danger level of the switch in his heart increased by 1 level. This woman used her advantages too well. Not far away, some wizards who had prepared in advance took out some horned eagles and griffins, and some took out flying props. Alan and Lilith took the horned eagles, provided by the Academy. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 190 White Dragon 2. The journey was peaceful. No monster dared to provoke such a large team. The monsters encountered on the road were also defeated. The lion scorpion nest, the harpy, and the eye demon were all eliminated without any ripples. This operation was a secret operation. Except for the senior leaders of the Academy, the low-level wizards did not know the route. They could only follow behind. After flying for a day, the wizards in the front finally slowed down. When they landed, the temperature around them was close to freezing point. This was a huge cave. Alan calculated that the distance between the top of the cave and the foot was about 800 meters. There were many cold pools outside the cave and many undulating hills in the cave. The deeper you go, the lower the temperature. Alan was also very surprised that such an environment appeared in the underground secret realm. Roar. A roar full of anger sounded. Then a group of guys like Quetzalcoatlus flew up. The largest wingspan was more than 10 meters, and the smallest was 6 meters. There were no scales on the body, and a group of high-level wizards had already come forward. These were frost pterosaurs. Although they had no scales and their defense was poor, they had icy breath and their strength was comparable to that of a second-level wizard. They were not easy to mess with, and they lived in groups. Seeing so many frost pterosaurs, Alan knew that the white dragon was here, and only the pure-blooded dragon clan could have so many followers. Boom. There was a burst of explosions, and the two sides had already fought. With another roar, a huge figure flew out, and a huge pressure appeared on the battlefield. As soon as it appeared, this was a huge white dragon, about 28 meters long, with a wingspan of more than 22 meters. Its strong body was covered with gray-white scales, and there were sharp barbs at the joints. There were hideous bone spurs on their huge wings. The dragons did not rely entirely on wings to fly. More often, they relied on spells. Their bodies were born with this ability, so although the injury to the wings would affect flexibility, it would not make it lose the ability to fly. Roar. A loud dragon roar came from the mouth of the white dragon, followed by many frost pterosaurs roaring and spraying out icy breaths. A second-level wizard who was unable to dodge was instantly sprayed. In just a few seconds, he turned into an ice sculpture, and was smashed to pieces by a tail sweep before he fell. The temperature around him dropped by more than 10 degrees in an instant, and the fire element became less active. Alfred led the high-level wizards to meet them. The battle between the two sides was very exciting, and the low-level wizards could not intervene at all. Another roar came, and a group of much smaller frost pterosaurs flew out. Most of these frost pterosaurs were only 2 meters in size, and belonged to low-level sub-dragon creatures. They had grayish-white skin, no scales on their bodies, and long necks and heads. They looked like pterosaurs, but their strength was not high. Go and deal with those sub-dragon beasts. Alfred's voice came from afar. Many low-level wizards went to deal with these frost pterosaurs. Under the command of the white dragon, the group of dragon beasts rushed towards the wizard fiercely, and even some dog-headed men rushed up. Acid, ice arrows, frost breath, and a large number of spells were cast. These dragon creatures were very strong, much stronger than the demon beasts, and had many spell-like abilities, so they were not easy to deal with. Flame arrow. The main force of this battle was the higher-level wizards. Alan was also a larger cannon fodder, so he was at ease paddling in the distance, collecting the bodies of some dead dragon beasts from time to time. It was Alfred who fought with the white dragon. The other wizards could not intervene at all, but Alfred's situation was not optimistic, and he was even at a disadvantage. Alan felt that, if there was no backup, this operation would definitely fail, and even the losses would be serious. The strength of the white dragon had firmly suppressed Alfred. Alan looked worried, and at this time a frost pterosaur, that was smaller than the other pterosaurs, appeared at the edge of the battlefield. This dragon, which looked a little malnourished, was injured. Seeing that no one noticed him, Allen retreated a little, and then a flash of inspiration appeared, and his figure disappeared. Advanced invisibility. All the way forward to the vicinity of the frost pterosaur, Allen did not intend to take advantage of the white dragon. As a legendary dragon in the ancient dragon stage, it was not easy to kill the frost pterosaur. Not to mention that it was injured now. Even if it was not injured, Allen would be able to kill it easily. He pulled out the dragon tooth sword. Since the forging was completed, this weapon has not been used. This area is already quite remote. The many breaths made the entire battlefield suspended with many small ice chips, making it difficult to breathe, and visibility was also much lower. In addition to the icy breath, the frost pterosaur can also use spells such as ice spikes. Physical attacks will use dragon wings to slap. The sharp mouth full of tiny teeth likes to bite. Its forelimbs and wings are connected as one, so it moves slowly on the ground. The dragon wings are its strongest part, and they are very powerful. As Allen approached, the injured frost pterosaur seemed to sense something. Its big eyes scanned the surroundings, and its nostrils kept moving, trying to find the enemy's traces. After seeing that it was close enough, Allen no longer hid. If he got closer, the pterosaur would find him directly, so he simply prepared to rush forward. Cat's grace. Bear's toughness. Dragon scale leather armor. Giant strength. Gravity. He directly activated the auxiliary spells of the spider silk robe on his body, and at the same time, activated the innate spells, and cast a gravity spell on the frost pterosaur. Allen rushed up with the dragon tooth sword in his hand. The moment the frost pterosaur saw Allen, it immediately breathed out a breath of icy air, and the ice and snow splashed. Allen dodged sideways, but some of it still fell on Allen. The powerful resistance given by the dragon scale leather armor was revealed, but it was a little cold. Allen exerted force for a while, and the ice fell down. If other wizards were hit by this, their bodies would be stiff immediately, and it would take a while to recover. The first thing to do to deal with this kind of pterosaur is not to cause damage, but to solve their flying ability. The flying ability of frost pterosaurs is better than that of dragons, but they are not as tough and thick as dragons. Allen rushed to the side of the frost pterosaur without slowing down, and a cold light flashed in the giant sword in his hand. He jumped up to avoid its bite, and the agility added by the cat's grace allowed him to easily step on the head of the frost pterosaur with his feet, and then came to its back. Sure. Blood splattered, and a shrill scream was heard. The sharp giant sword cut off the wings of the frost pterosaur, and the frost pterosaur, which suffered great pain, screamed in pain. Chapter 191 White Dragon 3. The frost dragon could no longer fly after a wing was cut off. This injury was not fatal. Dragons have strong vitality. Such injuries will stop bleeding quickly, and even grow a new wing, but this wing will be much smaller. A sharp claw slashed across, and a cold light flashed. The frost dragon turned over, and grabbed fiercely with its claws. Dragons are not very agile, because of their huge size, but this is only relative. The huge body also has a large attack range, and it is impossible to dodge in a small range. Bang! Allen took the claw attack and his body shook slightly. The red dragon blood gave him strength that was not inferior to the frost dragon. Then a big mouthful of dagger-like teeth bit Allen's neck. The appearance of the frost dragon is very similar to the pterosaurs on Earth. Its neck is very long, occupying nearly 1/3 of its body, and its head can turn almost without dead angles like a bird. Looking down, it was in front of Allen. He did not fight it head on. He released the dragon power that was restrained in his body. With the help of the dragon fang sword, he made the crazy frost pterosaur's offensive stagnate. Seeing such a good opportunity, how could Allen let it go? He pushed the ground hard with his feet, crushing the rock ground with huge force. His figure left a shadow, and he stood on one of the hind legs of the frost pterosaur with a sword. The body weighing 2 or 3 tons could not maintain balance, and tilted to one side. Allen did not slow down at all, dodged the falling pterosaur, and jumped hard on his toes. He jumped to its neck. The frost pterosaur struggled violently when it sensed the danger, and wanted to overturn Allen. However, Allen had already made a move. As soon as he made a move, he took over on the dragon's back for a while, jumped up, and raised his body. He concentrated all his strength on the dragon fang sword, and slashed with both hands with the gravity of the fall. Swordsmanship decapitation. A dragon head was directly cut off, and the gushing dragon blood splashed up. A flash of light flashed in Allen's hand, and all the splashing blood floated directly in the air. Then there was another flash of light, and the already extremely cold environment became even colder. The body of the frost pterosaur with a wingspan of nearly 6 meters was frozen visibly. Dragon corpses are very good materials. After killing the frost pterosaur, Allen quickly put away the corpse, and then cast a trace elimination spell. The traces around quickly disappeared, and then he left here with a high level invisibility. As for sneaking into the white dragon's lair, the white dragon now has the upper hand, and he can leave if he wants to. If he is found to have stolen his treasure, he will run back directly and be blocked in the lair, and he can't run away even if he wants to. Unless the academy can kill this white dragon this time, Allen will never get close. At this moment, a space fluctuation came over. Allen was stunned and quickly turned on the chip scan. Soon the chip had scanned the chaotic battlefield and marked the place where the space fluctuation was. That was the location of the other 3 tower masters of the academy. Although they had not broken through the legend, their strength was level 3 wizards. The 3 of them jointly cast a teleportation spell, which was to send something over. As the space fluctuations became violent, Baelong also noticed something strange. He turned around and threw away Alfred, who was suppressed, and rushed towards the 3 people. Alfred finally showed his demeanor as a legendary spellcaster at this time. A series of negative spells were cast, and then various control spells were cast to hold Baelong tightly. Although Baelong had a high resistance to monster immobilization spells, advanced gravity spells, and fear spells, he was still affected. The other wizards around him also immediately burst into fire and attacked frantically to attract Baelong's attention, but the gap between these people was still too big. Baelong's frost breath forced the group of people to dodge again and again. White frost had already appeared on Alfred's body, but the old man had no intention of retreating. Soon, the teleportation array lit up a pillar of light that reached the sky. A violent spatial fluctuation came, and the surrounding cold air was pushed away. A huge light gate appeared, and then a black shadow slowly emerged from the light gate. Look. What is that? The floating tower. It's the floating tower. Several wizards shouted enthusiastically. Allen finally understood how Alfred dared to come to slay the dragon. At first, Allen thought that this guy had broken through the legend and his confidence had swelled. It turned out that he had this trick. After advancing to the legend, the floating tower was strengthened. This time, the teleportation array was used directly to teleport this killer. Although it is not as good as the floating tower in Uganda, can something that can be used as a killer by a legendary wizard be simple? Soon, as Allen expected, after a fierce battle that shook the world, in fact, the white dragon was ready to run away after the floating tower appeared. Our knight Alfred cut off the head of the evil dragon with a sword, and the knight and the princess lived happily ever after. No, it was the dean who killed the white dragon with a magic pulse cannon. A dazzling light directly ended the life of the white dragon. The frost-winged dragons surrounding the white dragon began to flee in all directions, and some wizards began to chase them. However, more high-level wizards rushed to the body of the white dragon. A team of high-level wizards had already gone to the white dragon's lair. All dragons have a hobby of collecting treasures. White dragons prefer magic gems such as diamonds, and there will be no shortage of gold and jewelry. Although this is a closed underground secret, the underground world is rich in minerals, and the amount of gold and silver inside can definitely satisfy everyone. Allen, where have you been? Lilith looked at Allen with some surprise. It was a bit chaotic just now, and I was surrounded by several frost-winged dragons. Allen pointed to some ice chips on his body and said, "Ah, are you injured?" Lilith grabbed Allen with a worried look and checked. "Hey, how could you be injured? By the way, why don't you go clean up the battlefield? Those cold-winged dragon materials are still good." Allen changed the subject and pointed to the wizard who was collecting materials not far away. "Since you are fine, I will go to collect materials. You should hurry up too, otherwise they will be gone." Seeing that Allen was fine, Lilith went to collect materials in a hurry. Some high-level wizards who had freed up their hands used spells to control some sub-dragons. From what they meant, it seemed that they wanted to tame these sub-dragons. But these sub-dragons that had been enslaved by pure-blooded dragons were not easy to control. There were also some wizards who collected sub-dragon eggs in the sub-dragon nest. This method can tame sub-dragons, but it takes a lot of energy and time, but the benefits are still very cost-effective in comparison. This operation has basically been successful. The purpose of slaying the dragon has been achieved. The blood of the legendary white dragon is enough to make blood essence for 2 to 3 people. Although the white dragon is not strong, it can still reach the 2nd or 3rd level wizard. After implanting the blood, the casualties were limited, with only a few unlucky guys being killed directly by the white dragon. With this batch of gains, it is foreseeable that the sub-dragon wizards will have an explosive growth in the coming period. However, Allen is not optimistic about this white dragon bloodline, as it has limited potential. Bloodline has advantages in the early stage, but wizards still have to rely on the knowledge they have mastered, not just bloodline. Dragon vein wizards can sense that each other also has dragon veins. Allen's dragon vein may not be hidden, but he is not worried now, because it is not difficult to obtain some sub-dragon bloodlines in such a large battlefield, and even if it is exposed, it is no big deal. These people will only think that Allen has obtained the white dragon bloodline. Chapter 192 Experiment. After cleaning up the battlefield, the people of the Five Rings Tower return home with a full load. Such a strong elemental fluctuation occurred here, and other wizard organizations must have noticed it. Now that we have gained benefits, we should leave quickly, open the portal, and go directly back to the academy. There was nothing to do in the academy in the following time. Everyone was busy digesting the spoils. Allen also left the academy at this time. Of course, before leaving, he gave to apprentices a spell template of the wizard's hand. Although they could not construct it yet, it was still beneficial to familiarize themselves with it in advance. After answering a few questions, Allen left the academy in a flash. When he appeared again, Allen was already standing on the astronomical table of the wizard tower. He rubbed the little maid's ears casually. "Master." The little maid was now accustomed to Allen's actions, because she knew that, even if she wanted to resist, she was more likely to be forcibly captured. This was the conclusion she got after several resistances. "Is the wizard tower operating normally?" Allen nodded and retracted his hand. "Everything is normal." Biss nodded and said, "Read more books when you have time. You have good talent. It's always good to master a few spells." "Got it." Seeing the little maid's face full of despair, Allen was also a little helpless. There were so many people in this world trying their best to get into his library to read books, but this little maid looked so weak. Allen was also a little overwhelmed. He couldn't force her to learn. He shook his head to get rid of these distracting thoughts. "Go and send 2 units of dragon scale grass, red thorn flower, spell ash, and blood essence stone from the storage room to the laboratory. I will need them later," Allen said casually, and then went directly to the laboratory. Biss went down the stairs to the basement floor. This is the number 1 warehouse of the wizard tower. The number 2 warehouse stores various minerals, and the magic plants are stored here. When she arrived at the door of the warehouse, the door behind her closed directly. A red light directly covered her, and then a mechanical voice sounded. "Please stop and accept the inspection. Please stand still, and do not make other movements to avoid being attacked." Scanning begins. Character, Biss, Authority, Level 2 Authority, Authority approved. Then the door closed by the boulder slowly opened, and a space of more than 1,000 square meters appeared in front of him. After several improvements, this place has long been expanded by Allen using the space folding technology. The little maid who has been here several times is no longer surprised by this. She walked in directly to take out the materials she needed, and then walked all the way to the door of the laboratory. As soon as she arrived at the door opened directly with a bang. Looking from the door, she saw a huge and ferocious monster lying quietly on the platform of the laboratory. The monster's skin was grayish white, the head was more than 1 meter long, the 2 huge flesh wings had been cut off, there were barbs on the joints, and the body was thick and powerful. At a glance, a name popped out of her mind: a dragon. "What are you still doing? Hurry up and bring the things in." Allen was arranging bottles of red liquid on the test bench, looking at the stunned little maid, and said unhappily. Biss quickly came to her senses and handed the thing over, but the shock in her heart did not diminish at all. A dragon. This is a dragon. The master is so powerful. Looking up and seeing the little maid looking at him with admiration, Allen smiled softly. Okay, don't be in a daze. Go and open the energy valve. I know, master. Is this a dragon? The little maid asked while opening the energy valve. Strictly speaking, it is not a dragon, but a sub-dragon. Seeing the little maid's excited face, Allen explained. Asian dragon? Isn't an Asian dragon a dragon? Asian dragon is a subspecies of pure-blooded dragons. There are many Asian dragons. Roughly speaking, there are at least thousands of species, or even tens of thousands. Wow, so many? Yes, Asian dragons only have the blood of pure-blooded dragons. There are countless dragons in the multiverse. Some of them are created by pure-blooded dragons who can't control themselves, and some of them have obtained dragon blood in other ways, which may be some strange dragon blood plants, or wizards' experiments. Of course, their strength also varies greatly. Slowly thawing the corpse, Allen said casually. Then he waved his hand gently, and a faint blue flame appeared out of thin air. Then he pointed at the corpse not far away, and the faint blue flame fell on it and burned. As the flame burned, a trace of red blood slowly flowed out. The magic circle on the platform had already lit up, and the blood slowly floated up and finally gathered together. The body of this frost pterosaur weighed 2 or 3 tons, and blood accounted for about 15%. Crystal bottles were used to hold the blood, which was the raw material for extracting blood power. As for the corpse, it also has many uses. The elemental energy contained in the meat of the frost pterosaur is very high, and it is good as a raw material for magic potions or food. Bones are good materials for staffs. This frost pterosaur corpse is worth thousands of magic stones if it is fully developed. Soon the blood was extracted. After collecting the blood, Allen took out the dragon tooth sword and began to dissect the corpse. The dragon skin of the frost pterosaur is still relatively tough. It can be made into a wizard robe or leather armor. The best part was collected and prepared to upgrade the spider silk robe in a while, and the rest was used to make a set of leather armor for the little maid. The dragon meat was quickly decomposed. The elemental energy in the dragon meat was constantly dissipating, so it needed to be processed as soon as possible. Some of the edges and corners were directly thrown into the cauldron and cooked and eaten after a while. The rest was stored in the prepared ice element liquid, which was made of ice element crystals and elemental water plus several other materials. Soaking in this liquid, the elemental energy of the dragon meat will dissipate abnormally slowly, enough for Allen to slowly consume it. The bones were very hard, and a large number of broken bones were directly ground into bone powder. The dragon bone powder with good magic conductivity can replace a lot of magic materials. As for the remaining head and spine, they were completely preserved. After roughly processing this frost pterosaur, Allen prepared to extract the blood. This time, he planned to try to merge the dragons of the two worlds together. He wanted to know what would happen if the two dragons were combined. Set up the blood purification array and inject the blood of the frost pterosaur into it. As the array operated, the impurities in the blood were quickly removed. After several tedious steps, the last bottle of sub-dragon blood flashing with arcane light appeared in Allen's hand. Such a bottle of blood essence can transform an ordinary person into a blood wizard, which is very valuable. Allen did not stop and put the bottle of blood essence on the instrument next to him. These instruments brought back from the Harry Potter world have been modified by him. They no longer use electricity, but elemental energy. They only need to carve an energy conversion array at the access point to easily convert elemental energy into electrical energy. After skilled operation, less than 10 milliliters of red liquid remained in the crystal bottle. Although there was only so little left, a faint pressure came out of the crystal bottle, and many tiny ice crystals appeared in the surrounding air. A hand cast a few runes, and the crystal bottle flashed slightly, and all the strange phenomena disappeared. After checking, put it on the shelf next to it, and then took out the fire dragon egg. Chapter 193 Experiment 2. This fire dragon egg is not an ordinary one. It is the one that Allen got after studying a large number of fire dragons and finally mating them with fire dragons. In the original nest of dragon eggs, only this one has strong vitality. Most of the others are dead eggs, or waste eggs whose vitality will soon dissipate. Allen has calculated that this egg will have the strength of a second level wizard when it is directly hatched. Now that it has the blood of the frost pterosaur, as long as it succeeds, its potential is likely to be raised to a higher level. Putting the dragon egg away, Allen waved his hand gently, and a set of tools appeared in front of him. Picking up these engraving tools, Allen carefully engraved the rune array on the eggshell. Although he had done this operation many times in the last world, there were a lot of experimental materials at that time, and if it was broken, he would just replace it with another one. But there is only one fire dragon egg this time, and if he is not careful, all his previous efforts will be wasted. This made him have to be very careful. The art of eggshell carving requires high skills, because there is life in the egg when carving, so you need to be careful not to damage it. In front of Allen's eyes is a translucent screen, and a 3-dimensional fire dragon egg appears on it. Various rune positions have been designed on the eggshell. Fortunately, the fire dragon egg is relatively solid, and has a large surface area. It is not too difficult to engrave the rune array. Carefully engrave on the eggshell, and as time goes by, patterns appear on the eggshell. Finally, after 5 hours, Allen breathed a sigh of relief, rubbed his aching shoulders, and picked up the fire dragon egg. Chip. Scan the life status of the fire dragon egg. An invisible light wave enveloped the fire dragon egg, and soon the chip gave the result. Fire dragon egg, unhatched size, height 37 centimeters, width 32 centimeters, weight 8.3 kg. Activity, normal vitality, abundant runes are engraved on the surface, and the runes are completely in an inactive state. After seeing that there was no problem with the fire dragon egg, Allen breathed a sigh of relief. Without taking a break, he placed the fire dragon egg in the blood fusion array that had been arranged long ago. A flash of light flashed, and the rune array began to operate. Tower Spirit, open the element pool channel. As the voice fell, the element concentration in the laboratory began to rise rapidly. Allen took the blood essence of the white dragon and tapped it gently. The red blood essence flashing with elemental brilliance flew out of the crystal bottle, rotated in the air, and then slowly descended, touching the fire dragon egg little by little. A strand of crystal clear red thin lines merged into the rune array on the surface of the eggshell. As the blood merged, the rune array gradually turned red. As the red color continued to expand, the originally fiery red fire dragon egg had become blood red all over, and as the blood fusion continued to deepen, the red color began to gradually fade. The surrounding elemental energy also merged into the fire dragon egg along with the blood. Finally, after all the blood was merged, the eggshell returned to its original state. The continuous influx of elemental energy created a small elemental siphon effect. Allen turned the energy of the elemental pool to the maximum. The surging elemental energy poured into the laboratory, and a life seemed to gradually wake up from its slumber. Seeing the strange phenomenon caused by the fire dragon egg, Allen knew that he had succeeded this time. After the fire dragon egg absorbed enough elemental energy, it finally returned to normal. With a snap of his fingers, the fire dragon egg flew directly into Allen's hand. He opened the laboratory and walked towards the elemental pool. The elemental pool was still the same. The light blue elemental water swayed gently. A fiery red egg was on the platform. The surrounding elemental energy expanded and contracted, as if it had breathing. He checked the turkey. Oh, it was a phoenix egg. It would take some time for it to hatch. Then he placed the fire dragon egg on a stone platform next to it. The fire dragon egg had now turned pure white, with a circle of flame patterns wrapped around it. The patterns were gorgeous and lifelike, and looked like a ball of flame. After setting up the rune array on the platform, Allen checked it, and then left the elemental pool. The next few days were spent waiting for the 2 eggs to hatch slowly. During this time, Allen finally remembered his 2 apprentices. He was bored and decided to teach them. Seeing that this year's tasks had not been completed, Allen directly accepted the teaching task. One was to teach, and the other was to teach. He simply completed the task by the way. During this period, many wizards with sub-dragon blood emerged in the academy, most of whom were frost pterosaurs. This blood can become a formal wizard after adulthood, which is a good choice for those wizard apprentices. Moreover, the maturity period of frost pterosaurs is very short. Unlike the hundreds of years of maturity of pure-blooded dragons, the maturity period of frost pterosaurs is only 7 to 10 years. It is still very good to become a formal wizard in such a short time. As for the advancement to the 2nd level, it depends on the blood concentration and personal qualifications. Although the frost pterosaur has the strength of the second level, when it is an adult, the wizard's blood implantation method still has some influence. At this time, Allen has discovered that the red dragon blood essence produced by the system that he injected at the beginning is not ordinary. Although it is not at the level of a dragon king, it is much stronger than an ordinary red dragon. In addition, it has been integrated with divine power, and the bloodline shackles have disappeared. Many wizards who have been implanted with dragon veins have more or less shown some dragon-like phenomena. It is said that the blood of the white dragon has been implanted into a wizard. Allen was also secretly surprised by the actions of the Five Rings Tower. Although the white dragon blood cannot make a person break through the legendary level after the blood matures, the third level wizard is also very rare. If you live long enough, you can still step into the legendary level. Such a precious item that can create a dragon family was used up so quickly. After knowing that the apprentice's surname was Wessex, he was not surprised at all, because the Dean of the Five Rings Tower also had this surname. Closing the door of the classroom casually, Allen began to formally teach. This time he taught a paid course. Because he was teaching two little lawless at the same time, he explained the spell template of the wizard's hand. The ordinary wizard's hand only has 41 nodes, and the actions it can simulate are limited. Because this spell is very practical, many people will optimize it. Allen glanced at the classroom and started to lecture. Adding different nodes can enhance different properties. Some can enhance the power of the wizard's hand, and some can increase its flexibility. This requires your usage habits to improve. Here I will explain one direction. Allen's research on the wizard's hand is very thorough. This spell was originally used to facilitate various experiments, but after an unknown female wizard published a book called The Finger of Bliss, this spell ushered in an explosive breakthrough. At the same time, its appearance reduced the marriage rate among wizards, which was already low, by another 2 percentage points. The Voice of the Five Rings. Chapter 194 Phoenix. In fact, spell template optimization requires intelligence. This thing is very similar to advanced mathematics in mathematics. It also involves a lot of logical operations. Mathematics is a subject that tests IQ. If the intelligence is not up to standard, it is likely that you can only use your talent to cast spells. Many magical beasts with spell-like abilities cast spells in this way. The higher the IQ, the faster you can master spells. During this period, in addition to teaching, Allen returned to the wizard tower to observe the phoenix eggs that were about to hatch. Speaking of which, this phoenix egg also has a good foundation. It has absorbed so much elemental energy in the element pool during this period, but it has not yet hatched. It's just that the vitality fluctuations are getting stronger day by day. I just returned to the wizard tower that day. Master, you are back. Soon the little maid came over. Well, Allen nodded and sat on the chair. He took the cup handed over by the little maid and drank a sip. Master, is it delicious? Very good. A new product you cultivated? Allen closed his eyes and savored it. This time I added fragrant grass to the tea. The fragrance is more intense, and this drink can speed up recovery. Biss said with some pride. Seeing that the little maid was bored, Allen taught her how to use the instruments and the techniques of planting magic plants. The little maid was unstoppable and used various plants for experiments. However, she was also very talented. She made several drinks with the magic plants Allen brought back. Very good. I like the taste this time. Allen drank the remaining tea. Do it this way in the future. Leisurely flipping through books in the library, I have to say that the ability to draw inferences from one example in this world is indeed outstanding. For example, this book has a detailed analysis of various low-level spells. Allen was also greatly inspired by their way of thinking. Putting this book analysis of low-level spells back on the bookshelf, Allen prepared to go to the element pool to take a look. The phoenix egg has been a little moved these days, and Allen feels that it is about to hatch. All the way to the basement, open the door of the element pool, the rich element energy rushes to the face. In the middle of the element pool, on the white marble platform, a fiery red egg is quietly placed on it. A red pattern on the eggshell was like a flame that was constantly moving. Inside the eggshell, the abundant vitality had begun to leak out. During the chip scan, Allen could clearly see the data of the phoenix egg. A faint golden light appeared on the surface of the eggshell. Through the flickering spiritual light, Allen vaguely saw a group of figures curled up inside the egg. But the surface of the eggshell kept flickering with spiritual light, breathing in and out, shrinking and expanding, looking like breathing. As the phoenix egg flickered faster and faster, the entire phoenix egg began to shake slightly. A spiritual light flew out casually, and the eggshell became translucent. A baby bat with sparse feathers and looked ugly appeared in front of him. The little guy curled up, and his body contracted and expanded with breathing, exactly the same frequency as the surface of the eggshell. After a while, the curled up figure began to move, and Allen knew that the highlight was about to come. He stared at the phoenix egg in front of him, and even held his breath. The little guy in the eggshell felt that the space was too narrow, and began to hit the eggshell with his body. The narrow space made him feel uncomfortable, and his sharp beak began to peck at the hard eggshell. The force was getting stronger and stronger as he moved. Seeing this, Allen knew that the little guy was about to be born. He snapped his fingers gently, and a strange rune emerged. The rune slowly fell over the phoenix egg and combined into a strange symbol. Then it slowly fell and merged into it. On the eggshell, a spell mark flashed and finally appeared on the forehead of the unborn phoenix. Instinctively sensing danger, the unborn phoenix wanted to avoid it, but it had no power to resist in the eggshell. It only struggled a little, and the spell mark appeared firmly on its head. With the integration of the spell mark, Allen felt that there was a strange connection between him and this little life. Although it was still very weak now, it would continue to become stronger as the little guy grew up. This is a contract spell that Allen specially studied. Unless Allen cancels it, this phoenix will be Allen's pet for the rest of its life. After the little guy absorbed the spell mark, he continued to struggle, trying to break free from the eggshell. The eggshell's mission had ended. The originally hard shell had gradually become brittle. The little guy continued to struggle, causing the phoenix egg on the stone platform to sway left and right, and finally a crisp sound was heard. Crack. Crack. Fine cracks appeared on the eggshell, and the cracks became more and more numerous and larger. Crack. Another crisp sound. A small piece of eggshell fell off, revealing the pointed beak. The bright red beak shook hard and then retracted. As the eggshell broke, the little guy took his first breath of air, and then Anka could no longer stop it. After a while, the chick had completely broken free from the eggshell. Chirp. The little phoenix called twice, flapped its wings, and then lowered its head to eat the eggshell next to it. Looking at this ugly chick with sparse feathers and a layer of white mucous membrane, it was wet all over, and Allen couldn't believe it. The newborn phoenix didn't have its beautiful appearance at all, and looked like a featherless chicken. If it weren't for the strange smell on it, Allen couldn't believe his eyes. However, as the little guy kept pecking at the eggshells, it began to undergo earth-shaking changes. One by one, fiery red feathers began to grow, and its body began to grow. After all the eggshells were eaten by it, its entire appearance had changed dramatically. Its body became slightly larger, and its body was covered with fiery red feathers. Its eyes looked around, revealing a hint of curiosity. When it saw Allen, it chirped again. A signal of hunger came over, and a bag of bird food was taken out from the dimensional space and poured directly on the white marble table. The extremely hungry little guy lowered his head and pecked at it. This is the high quality bird food bought at the Five Rings Tower. The Academy specially uses it to feed carrion crows. Allen bought a lot of the best ones. Seeing the little guy eating very quickly, it seems that he likes this food very much. This small bag of bird food is not cheap. One magic stone can buy 10 bags. Judging from its appetite, Allen estimated that it would need at least 5 or 6 bags. Allen breathed a sigh of relief. He had always been worried that this phoenix would be like the ancient Chinese phoenix and was extremely picky about food. Now it seems that, although the name is the same, it should not be the same species, otherwise it would not eat so happily. Chapter 195. Alex. Phoenix was called a mythical animal in ancient times, but as a mythical animal, its survival rate is the lowest. Why do you say that? Zhuangzi said, there is a bird in the south. Its name is the phoenix. Do you know it? The phoenix originates from the South China Sea and flies to the North China Sea. It will not stop unless it is the phoenix tree. It will not eat unless it is the fruit of the bamboo, and it will not drink unless it is the sweet spring water. That is to say, this bad will not stop unless it is the phoenix tree. It will not eat unless it is the fruit of the bamboo, and it will not drink unless it is the sweet spring water. What is the fruit of the bamboo? Common name, bamboo rice. After decades to hundreds of years of growth and development, the bamboo forest in an area will bloom at this time. After the bamboo blooms, bamboo rice will grow. Then, whether it is the bamboo grown 10 years ago, or the bamboo grown just last year, the bamboo forest will wither and die at the same time. And these fruits fall into the soil, take root and sprout, and grow into a bamboo forest again. But in most cases, the bamboo forest will no longer grow. So the bamboo we see rarely blooms, because after the bamboo flowers, the bamboo forest will die in large areas. The seeds it forms are bamboo rice, also called lychee. They are long and thin, covered with shells. After being husked, they become white, and some turn yellow. They are similar to rice, and are very nutritious. Because they are extremely rare, they have been very precious since ancient times. So the phoenix is awesome. They will not eat anything other than bamboo rice. This has led to a consequence. The phoenix became extinct, and the cause of extinction was starvation. Now looking at the silly bird eating happily, Allen finally put down his worries. It seems that the silly bird is not picky about food. Little guy, do you have a name? Allen tapped the phoenix's head with his fingers. The phoenix looked up and chirped twice, then lowered its head to continue eating. Forget it, it's useless to ask. Seeing your silly look, I guess you don't have any knowledge to pass on. I'll just call you Alex. Looking at the silly bird who was only concerned with eating, Allen directly determined its name, and as for its opinion, he reserved it. Tower Spirit. Go and call Biss over. Allen planned to stay in the wizard tower to keep Biss company, and guard the wizard tower when it grows up. Allen had just scanned it with a chip. This little guy now has the strength of a first level wizard apprentice. It has great potential, and is likely to reach the 3rd level wizard when it grows up. With the help of the wizard tower, basically no one except the legendary wizard can get close to it. As for the fire dragon egg, it has the blood of 2 world dragons, and can reach the 3rd level wizard when it grows up. With such strength, Allen can rest assured about the defense of the wizard tower. Master, are you looking for me? Biss was wearing a tight-fitting outfit, which completely outlined her curvy figure. With delicate facial features, long black hair, and brown skin, the wild charm of the drow elves was fully displayed. Allen's eyes lit up, and waved his hand. The little maid came over, rubbed her ears, and then pointed to the phoenix that was eating and said, "The little guy is called Alex. I'll leave it to you to keep you company in the future. Come and get to know it." Biss saw the thing that looked like a chicken when she came in just now. She was a little surprised. At this time, she heard Allen's words and realized that it was a phoenix. "Master, is this the phoenix? Why does it look so much like a chicken?" The little maid asked curiously, poking the little creature with her finger. Alex, who was only busy eating, shook his wings and ignored her. It is indeed a phoenix. When a phoenix is young, it does look like a chicken. It is very weak now, but don't underestimate it. It may not be long before its strength catches up with you. What will you do then? You can't even beat a bird. Allen said with a warning to Biss, who looked like she had just got a new toy. "It is this, huh? And you still want to surpass me?" Biss pouted and glanced at Alex, not taking it to heart. Wizard Tower, Ecological Park. This is where Allen spent a lot of effort to build. Because of the use of space expansion technology, the area here is not as small as it looks from the outside. This technology is fully inherited by the Five Rings Tower and the Tibis world, but Tibis's is more advanced. The theory of this technology is that space is compressed. When it is compressed to an infinitely small size, an explosion will occur. After the explosion, the space will instantly increase by tens of millions of times. Of course, it is impossible for the Wizard Tower to use this method. It is just a space expansion technique, based on these theoretical studies. It is said that in the period of the Arcane Empire, the space inside the Wizard Tower of those great arcane masters can even be compared to a demi-plane, and some are directly integrated with the demi-plane, creating a small ecological circle in the Wizard Tower. A large number of magical plants can be planted on the ground to generate resources. It can even be compared to a small material plane. Allen's ecological park is now only 1 square kilometer in size. A large number of magical plants are planted here. He also spent some effort to find the bloodthirsty bee nest outside the Five Rings Tower, and then moved the bloodthirsty bee nest here. Not only can it solve the problem of pollination of magical plants, but it can also produce some bloodthirsty honey every once in a while. Although these honeys cannot improve Allen's mental strength now, they still have some effect on the little maid. In addition, the sales of these bloodthirsty honeys in the Five Rings Tower are very hot. Many collection tasks issued by Allen are awarded with bloodthirsty honey. Alex was raised here. Allen cultivated a demonized phoenix tree and used catalysis to ripen it. The phoenix tree is now more than 30 meters tall, with a straight trunk and golden yellow. The crown is a dazzling golden umbrella with a bird's nest on the treetop. The phoenix is indeed a unique race. Allen's phoenix should have the blood of the phoenix. It has only been 1 month since its birth, but its strength has reached the level of a 3rd level wizard apprentice. Its only attack method is fire attack, or claws or beak. Allen is very interested in its fire attack mentor. This kind of fire is different from the fire spewed by the dragon. This kind of fire has the effect of purifying everything. It is somewhat similar to the legendary sacred fire, but its power is far less. Its IQ is also well developed. It now has the IQ of a 6 or 7-year-old human child. Allen estimates that, when she grows up, she may be smarter than most humans. It is said that the phoenix is naturally lucky, but I don't know if the silly bird has this ability. Luck is a rare attribute. Allen knows that there are only a few species with this attribute, such as golden dragons, flower fairies, and unicorns. And only the queen of the flower fairy has it. Nabis has become familiar with Alex, but Allen thinks it is more likely due to the food Bis made. Looking back at Bis teasing Alex and having a lot of fun, Allen shook his head. You know, he ignored Bis at the beginning and would peck at its feathers if he wanted to touch it. But when Bis took out a plate of roasted nuts, he immediately pounced on it. Chapter 196 Hatching Fire Dragon Eggs. The fire dragon egg is still in the incubation period. Allen checked and found that this egg will hatch soon. Allen is still full of expectations for this new species he created. 3 days passed quickly. On this day, Allen was planting the magic plants collected from the Harry Potter world in the ecological park. The tower spirit suddenly informed Allen, "Master, the life characteristics of the fire dragon egg are extremely active. It is expected to be born soon. It seems that the fire dragon is also going to be born. Okay Alex, you play by yourself. I'll go and bring you a little friend." After touching its little head and letting it play by itself, Allen turned and left the ecological park. After a month in the element pool, the element siphon appeared here again. When the element energy dissipated, a little guy broke out of the shell. The little guy was about the size of a wild dog when he was born. He had silver white scales on his body and looked very much like a lizard. He looked at the little guy with expectation, but the dragon didn't care about its owner at all and turned to gnaw the eggshell. What's the matter? He has the blood of the white dragon among the 5 colored dragons, but he didn't get the dragon inheritance? Allen looked at it uncertainly. Whether it is a record of dragons in the Five Rings Tower or the books in the world of Tibis, dragons will shout out their real names when they are born and then receive inheritance. Some subspecies with strong blood will also receive inheritance. Although this little guy is not a pure-blooded dragon, he has the blood of a white dragon implanted, and his blood is also very strong. Now he has nothing. Is it because of the influence of the fire dragon blood or other reasons? Looking at the little guy who was still destroying the eggshell, Allen snapped his fingers and a piece of fresh beef appeared on the platform. The little guy who had just solved the eggshell jumped on it and started to bite it hard. Watching the 2 sharp teeth easily tear the beef apart, and then swallowed it quickly. Soon, this piece of beef twice the size of its body had been eaten into its stomach. After destroying the food, the guy lay directly on the stone platform and fell asleep. Looking at the sleeping little dragon, Allen ordered the tower spirit to continue to guard it, and then left the elemental pool directly. Chip. Extract all books related to dragons. Extraction completed. Screen out questions about dragon inheritance. Screening completed. Implant or not? Implant. After a large amount of information poured in, Allen closed his eyes and began to flip through them, and soon found the answer. Dragon creatures will call out their true names when they are born. In most cases, dragon subspecies with thin blood will not obtain inherited knowledge. Only some dragon subspecies with rich blood will obtain partial inheritance. Dragon eggs laid by pure-blooded dragons sometimes have wisdom degeneration. In this case, the wisdom of the young dragons is as low as that of beasts, and they will not inherit the knowledge of dragon inheritance. For these young dragons that fail to inherit the wisdom of the dragon race, they will generally be expelled from the nest, and some evil dragons will directly kill these young dragons with developmental defects. Habits of 5-colored dragons Asgard. Seeing this, Allen finally understood the status of this young dragon. It is very likely that this young dragon is a dragon with degenerated wisdom, and the proportion of such dragons with degenerated wisdom is the highest among white dragons, because white dragons are the most numerous among all dragons. Looking at this silly dragon, Allen was a bit overwhelmed. It was born with great difficulty, but it turned out to be a brainless one. And this heartless thing was holding a marble column and chewing it hard. The marble was attached with runes and became extremely hard. It didn't break after chewing for a long time. He kicked the brainless dragon in annoyance, but it didn't react at all. Brainless dragons are really fun. After working so hard for so long, I thought it would be able to kill people with a shake of its dragon body after it was born, but in the end, a brainless one came out with a shake of its dragon body. Allen's throat was stuck with the word MMP. He wanted to destroy it humanely and start over, but he was worried that the next one would be a brainless one. Allen studied the birth rate of mentally retarded white dragons and found that it was as high as 30%. As for those sub-dragons, they were directly beasts. Allen felt a pain in his liver when he thought of spending so much money. Continue to raise it with this IQ. Looking at the energetic brainless dragon that was making a fuss in the house and biting everywhere. This thing is at most a husky. Even if it has good talent, its growth space is extremely limited. If you want to reduce the loss, you can only see if there is any way to remedy it. Allen opened the books stored in the chip and began to sift through the information. With the nature of arcane masters, it is impossible for them not to study creatures like dragons. Maybe there is a solution. A large number of books and information were sorted and sifted through the chip. As expected, there is a solution here, and there is more than one solution. The best way is to find a dragon god and let the dragon god give it a blessing. Not only can it cure the brain damage, but it also greatly increases its potential and has many benefits. However, in the world of wizards, where can you find a dragon god? Even if there is one, the dragon god will see the brain damaged dragon you created and will most likely burn you to ashes with a breath of dragon breath. Kill you, the guy who blasphemed the dragon bloodline. The second way is to make a wish. This spell can realize all wishes, but please note that its implementation method may be somewhat different from your understanding. After casting this magic, as long as the caster says "I wish" loudly, the following words will become a real event. However, the requirements of this magic are so harsh that it will shorten the user's life by 5 years, and the user will be in a weak state for a period of time and cannot use magic. Of course, these are not the worst. The worst thing is that no one knows how this magic will work. There was once an arcane master who wished for immortality, but was teleported to an unknown place after being fake dead and sleeping forever, but he was indeed not dead. There are also wizards who wished for treasure, but when they opened their eyes, they either found themselves buried in a mine or facing an angry dragon. In the same way, in their few lives, they did have a considerable amount of treasure. It really fulfilled your wish. What's more, there were even more people who wished to kill the enemy, but a meteorite fell and crushed both of them to death. After countless ancestors explored in the dark, they finally found a limited number of safe ways to make wishes, but the number was pitifully small, so this magic became a famous top-level useless magic, and was widely circulated. Few people used it. Allen rolled his eyes after reading it. This spell could be expressed in rigorous language after chip reasoning and research, but it would shorten one's life by 5 years and the person would not be able to use spells. The side effects were too great, so it was directly crossed out. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 197, Enlightenment and Wisdom. Enlightenment. The necromancer will extract a normal soul and make it into a strange ghost. It can move with its body, but the body and soul are not matched, so the strength is much weaker. This spell is easy to implement, but it has an impact on strength. Crystal dragons like to adopt the offspring abandoned by white dragons and other evil dragons. This group of neutral dragons is curious about everything. They like to communicate with visitors. Most crystal dragons live in the wind element plane, but some material planes build miraculous-sized palaces on the snowy peaks. Crystal dragons also have a bad taste. They like to steal white dragon eggs and then train white dragons to be good dragons. So white dragons and it are mortal enemies. Of course, if you meet a kind white dragon, don't be surprised. It was just transformed by the crystal dragon. Gem Dragon Research Zaliraya. Suddenly a paragraph of text appeared in Allen's mind. Seeing this, Allen's eyes lit up. This method is not bad. The two spells of Awakening Spirits and Wisdom Enlightenment can turn an unintelligent life into an intelligent race. There has been a debate in the wizarding world about the origin of this spell. Charles Darwin wrote The Origin of Species after many years of research. According to the theory of evolution of species, any organism can evolve into intelligent life under suitable conditions. At that time, this view broke out in the wizarding world. Fierce debate broke out, but later more and more wizards accepted this view. Some wizards conducted some biological experiments, and the Beastman was born during that period. According to this theory, two spells were created, namely the Awakening of Spirits and the Enlightenment of Wisdom. The two spells have their own characteristics. The Awakening of Spirits is to open the spirit and then let it develop on its own, while the effect of the Enlightenment of Wisdom is to control the spirit and let it change in the direction you want. It is said that some wizards with special hobbies use this spell to create some alternative beastmen. This was revealed by a wizard who did not want to reveal his name. The crystal dragon learned these two spells and forcibly turned the white dragon into a silver dragon. Of course, its body is still a white dragon. Allen had used a spell similar to Wisdom Enlightenment before, Soul Construction, which was a spell used to create golem puppets and tower spirits. Allen studied the two spell templates and found that they were very similar. He wrote down the two spell templates and prepared to learn them and then use them on this brain-dead dragon. With chip analysis and these two spells, it was not difficult for Allen to learn them quickly. He reached out and grabbed the wings of the brain-dead dragon and carried it directly to the laboratory. He threw it on the ground in the middle and activated the confinement spell. He took out some crushed powder of magic gems and pointed the staff in his hand lightly. A ray of spiritual light sank in and countless star-like light points flew up and fell on the brain-dead dragon. He took out another black elemental crystal. This was a soul crystal formed by the earthbound spirit. The soul energy inside was abundant. The element channel was opened, and a large amount of elemental energy poured in from the element pool. Although this spell was simple, it required a lot of casting. Allen could hardly complete it by relying on his own strength, but it was much easier to cast it with the help of the element pool. Standing in the rune array, a strong energy surged in, and he chanted the spell without delay. Enlightenment. As the rhythmic Nessa language was recited, the surrounding element also underwent some strange changes. The surging elemental energy in the body was continuously released under Allen's control. The soul crystal was already floating in the air. A purple soul force was extracted and then flowed along Allen to the hybrid dragon in front of him. A strange soul fluctuation gradually appeared. With the influx of spell power, the soul fluctuation in this body became stronger and stronger. The spell lasted for 3 minutes. With a click, the originally complete soul crystal left a long and narrow hole. The purple-black crystal had turned gray. The spell gradually dissipated, and the hybrid dragon's eyes became brighter. It was no longer confused as before, and looked around curiously. Seeing the obvious effect, Allen slowly breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that the effect was good. Then, without resting, he continued to cast the next spell. Wisdom Enlightenment. Silk threads appeared in Allen's eyes. The place where the silk threads connected was the hybrid dragon. After understanding these silk threads, Allen knew that the spell was successful. These silk threads can set the character camp and other things of this hybrid dragon. Allen gently moved one of them, and the silk thread directly shifted. The other silk threads were also affected. He continued to test the movement with interest. After playing for a while, Allen finally remembered that the template of this hybrid dragon had not been completed. He hurriedly started to set it up. Allen designed the template of this hybrid dragon into an emerald dragon with some evil taste. Emerald dragon is a very interesting dragon. It does not trust any outsiders. It likes to set up various traps in its nest, and likes to hide and attack. This characteristic is very suitable for guarding the wizard tower. Allen soon completed the transformation of the hybrid dragon. As the last bit of magic ore emerged into the body of the hybrid dragon, Allen lifted the spell effect. The hybrid dragon kept flying in the air, curiously looking at the surrounding environment. Because it was the template of the emerald dragon, it was full of curiosity about the surroundings. Alex stood elegantly on a big tree, combing his beautiful feathers, and glancing at the active little dragon in the air. Seeing a few blood-sucking bees flying by, the little dragon curiously followed them, and even stretched out his claws to catch them. But blood-sucking bees are not easy to mess with. The blood-sucking bee, which had already regarded it as an attack, directly showed its tail stinger, and then whooshed, piercing the skin of the hybrid dragon. The newly grown scales could not resist the sharp tail stinger. The severe pain made it forget to flap its wings, and it fell to the ground with a doong sound. A big bulge appeared on the part that was stung. The tearful hybrid dragon directly spit dragon breath at the blood-sucking bee, and a flame only a dozen centimeters long spurted out. The blood-sucking bee dodged lightly. Seeing that it had no effect, the hybrid dragon took a breath again, and spurted out a white frost breath. Allen's eyes lit up, and he was a little surprised to find that the hybrid dragon actually inherited two kinds of dragon breath. It seems that it is worth spending a precious soul crystal this time. At this time, the hybrid dragon was able to run away after being stung by a few blood-sucking bees. Blood-sucking bees are social animals, and they would come out in hundreds at a time. This curious little guy actually fought with the blood-sucking bees. After being stung a few times, he turned around and ran towards Allen without caring about his face, and then hid directly behind Allen. P.S. Today is a little new year. I wish everyone a happy little new year. Today is the 5th update. Please collect, recommend, monthly ticket, and subscribe. The kind that rolls on the ground and hugs the thighs, and can't be kicked away. Chapter 198 Douglas. Waving away the blood-sucking bees that were chasing after him, Allen looked down at the troublemaker. The hybrid dragon licked the big bump on its body with tears in its eyes. Just call yourself Douglas. Looking at this poor little guy, Allen lifted its wings and said, watching it nod. Allen rubbed her head and a flash of light popped out, and put it on the ground. Feeling no pain, Douglas flew up again, this time flying towards Alex beside him. Although Alex was born a month earlier than him, his body was one size smaller than the hybrid dragon, but he didn't know that the Phoenix's spellcasting ability was more than one level higher than it. Douglas picked the wrong target again this time. Shaking his head and not looking at its miserable scene, Allen left the ecological park. Kalin City is still the same. This kind of civilization in the Middle Ages, if there is no external influence, may not change much in hundreds of years. Earl Anthony is interested in consolidating the status of his family. He has just become an earl from a knight, and his family is not very powerful. He can control the port of Kalin because he has brought a lot of benefits to the nobles around him, and another reason is that there is a formal wizard standing behind him. During this period, Earl Anthony's mansion has become more luxurious. It seems that the fleet has made a lot of money recently. Allen discovered kaolin in the Salt Islands, and then handed over the production process of porcelain to him. These white porcelains successfully conquered the entire aristocratic class as soon as they appeared. Now there are many nobles in the whole East who spend a lot of money for a set of porcelain. After not seeing him for a while, Earl Anthony has become fatter. From a distance, the whole person is almost a meatball. After handing him a list of materials, Allen left here. The expansion of the wizard tower requires a lot of ordinary materials. Allen has no time to collect them. These are all handed over to Anthony. Through the teleportation array, Allen returned to the Five Rings Tower. At this time, summer has come to an end. Allen first went to the task hall to check the tasks posted because he needed to upgrade the floating tower and Allen needed a lot of materials. Sir Allen, 1/5 of the collection task you posted has been completed. A charming witch winked at Allen, then took out a list. Thanks to the development of the underground secret realm, the academy has an abundant supply of various magic metals during this period. But there is still very little mithril. You know, no one has too much of this rare metal. Star sand and arcane dust are too rare. Unless a legendary wizard enters the astral realm, I think you may need to wait patiently. Reaching out to take a small space bag, Allen opened it and checked it. After confirming that there was no problem, he took out more than 1,000 magic stones and paid the other party. Do you still need to post tasks? The front desk witch looked at Allen with a smile. This time, the task alone would bring in a lot of income. They are very concerned about such big customers. Of course. Allen nodded and handed her a list. These are the material lists. I got some bloodthirsty honey here. The tasks that have been marked can be used as rewards. Allen took out a few bottles of bloodthirsty honey and handed them to the witch for inspection. After checking that there was no problem, he put the list away. We will release the task as soon as possible, and we will charge a 1% handling fee for the task reward. Allen nodded in agreement, then picked up the dimensional bag and turned to leave. Many rare materials cannot be collected in the task hall. If you want to get them, you may have to find them yourself. Star sand and arcane dust are mostly found in the astral world. Only a few places in the material world occasionally produce them. Annihilation matter and space crystals can only be found in the destroyed half-plane. Perhaps some ancient wizards will leave them in some ruins, but it is not easy to find them. Turning to the trading market on the right side of the task hall, this is the largest item exchange in the Five Rings Tower. Allen casually checked here and bought some materials he needed if the price was right. He also bought some things he was interested in. The things here are very messy and the prices are also very random. There are also a lot of fakes. It's better now. Allen is holding a scale of a cold-winged dragon to check it out, and this stall owner dares to say that it is a scale of a white dragon. Sir, look at this white dragon scale. It's silvery white. It feels bone-chilling. The scale is tough and has strong magic power. It's the scale of a real white dragon. To tell you the truth, I participated in the extermination of the white dragon in the underground secret realm. The stall owner boasted proudly. Oh, really? It is said that the white dragon is not simple. You can get so many white dragon scales. Allen was amused and pretended to question, pointing to the dozen scales piled up on the stall. The cold dragon is also a sub-dragon with white dragon blood, but it is much weaker than the frost dragon, but its scales are very similar to those of the white dragon. Some unscrupulous wizards soak its scales with some potions, which can increase the magic power and toughness in a short time, and then disguise them as white dragon scales for sale. Most people have never seen a real white dragon scale, and will be fooled if they are not careful. Don't you see what I do, brother? He said mysteriously, approaching Allen and whispered. What do you do? Allen asked curiously. I discovered the white dragon's lair. Because of my contribution, after I successfully slayed the dragon, the academy rewarded me with a lot of spoils from the white dragon. Have you seen this wizard robe? This is the work of Master Nicholas of the Alchemy Tower. It is made of precious white dragon skin. He shook the wizard robe with a proud look on his face. When he saw Allen reaching out to touch it, he quickly dodged. What are you doing? Can you touch such a precious wizard robe casually? Allen looked at the wizard in front of him speechlessly. A wizard robe made of cold-winged dragon skin, which looked like white dragon skin, after being treated with potions. Really thought it was real. Then you better keep it well. Such a precious thing will easily lose its magic power if it is placed here. He gave him all the cold-winged dragon scales and turned to leave. Hey, don't go. I have something better here. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. Seeing Allen was about to leave, the wizard immediately became anxious. He had finally managed to trick someone to come over. If he was scared away again, he would have to put his goods here and shout. One of them jumped to stop Allen and said, brother, I'll give you 20% off on the goods here. Just take a look. Haha, buy these so-called white dragon scales. Allen stared at the stall owner with a smile. Well, it's okay if you don't buy white dragon scales. I have other good things here. You are also knowledgeable, and these will definitely satisfy you. The wizard was just embarrassed for a moment, and hurriedly continued. Chapter 199 Map. You have other things? It's not a white dragon egg or a divine spirit, is it? Allen said with a half smile. You are joking. How can a small stall like mine have such things? The stall owner pretended not to understand Allen's words and said stupidly. But I have some good things here. Please show it to me. He opened a box next to him. Allen looked down and saw that there were more than a dozen items in the box. The most conspicuous ones were a few golden magic pearls. This thing is only produced in small quantities in the magic clams in the deep sea. It has always been the main item traded between the sea people and wizards. Magic pearls come in many colors, the most common of which is white. Female wizards flock to this kind of pearl because it has a very significant effect, which is to make the face not be damaged. Of course, if it only has this effect, wizards will not buy it in large quantities. It also has another function, which is to weaken the rejection of blood. This effect is very useful. Most wizards will implant the blood of other demonized creatures in their bodies. The degree of compatibility between demonized blood and different people is different. Only when the degree of compatibility reaches 60% can it be implanted. Of course, this is just a minimum data. In fact, most wizards will choose 80% compatibility for the first blood implant. The repulsion of blood at this degree of compatibility is very low, and basically there will be no effect. Of course, there are also wizards who fuse several different bloods in pursuit of powerful strength. Even if the degree of compatibility is very high each time, the superposition will reach the warning line. This repulsion is usually normal, and it will only suddenly erupt when advancing. Every year, some wizards will have blood repulsion eruption when they advance, which will cause the body to collapse and turn into a mass of rotten meat. The demonized pearl has a peculiar effect. It can inhibit blood repulsion. The demonized pearl is combined with other magic potions to make a blood fusion potion. When used during advancement, it can greatly reduce the probability of physical collapse. As for the colorful corals beside, they are also a kind of material that can be used to make magic wands, which have a bonus to water attributes. There are also some other minerals, animal skins and other things that do not look fake. Allen picked up the golden pearl and poured his mental power into it to check it out. As soon as the mental power entered, he sensed a pure water element. After a careful inspection, it was indeed a top quality magic pearl. Well, the magic pearl is of good quality. How many magic stones do you want? Allen put down the things and asked directly. 150 magic stones, or other items of equal value, but I need to calculate the price of the items. The stall owner's eyes lit up and said directly, you really dare to ask for it? Although this thing is good, it only sells for more than 200 magic stones to refine the blood fusion potion. I'll take 100, Allen said with a smile. You are joking. The quality of this magic pearl is excellent, and the success rate must be high. How can you lose money with your level? 100 magic stones is too low. Then how much do you want? 140. No, that's too expensive. 130. 140. Pick another item from my stall. Allen thought about it and nodded in agreement. He took out 140 magic stones and handed them to the stall owner, picked up the magic pearl and put it away, and then started to pick something from this stall. At this time, Allen realized that there was no item on the stall that was worth more than 5 magic stones, and most of them were fakes. He picked up something, and a tattered parchment was exposed. The parchment was old and tattered, with a large piece missing. There were many lines drawn on it. Allen suddenly felt that these lines looked familiar. He felt a faint magical wave flowing on it when he held it in his hand. He asked casually, what is drawn on this parchment? Your Excellency has good eyesight. This parchment is not an ordinary thing. It is a map of ruins that I got by chance. It is said that the location of the ruins is drawn on it. It's just that I have bad luck. I still can't find the ruins after getting it for several years. I have no choice but to sell it here. If you want it, just take it. Maybe you can find the ruins. Allen sneered. How can you find such a map with most of it missing? He was about to throw it away and pick up other items. How do you know if you don't try it? If you find it, you will make a lot of money. The stall owner took the parchment and stuffed it into Allen's hand. Well, it's getting late. I have something else to do. I'll leave first. Before he finished speaking, he closed the stall and turned away. After putting away the parchment, Allen continued to wander around the trading market. After leaving the gate, they went straight back to their residence in the ecological park. The two apprentices should be in class at this time. They came to the laboratory and directly opened the protective rune array. Allen then took out the parchment, which was messily painted with many line symbols, feeling like a child's random graffiti. Then he took out a somewhat worn black magic book from the storage bag. It was the magic notebook of the ancient dragon wizard who chased him at the beginning. He quickly opened it and kept turning the pages. Swish. The voice suddenly stopped, and Allen picked up the parchment and began to compare. Chip. Scan this map. Task established. Start scanning. The cold mechanical sound sounded in his mind. A light wave invisible to the naked eye scanned back and forth on the parchment. Then a translucent map appeared directly in front of Allen, and the two broken maps were spliced together. It was the place where the ancient dragon wizard got the bottle of blood essence. When Allen got this map, he wanted to go to the ruins to have a look, but the map was incomplete, and he put it aside for the time being. He didn't expect to get the other half of the map from that profiteer today. The chip stores a lot of map information, which Allen collected while in the library. He used the chip to compare the map in all directions, and he quickly found the location of the ruins. The ruins are located in the northwest of the Five Rings Tower, beyond the range of the Ghost Tower and the Rocky Mountains. This mountain range stretches and undulates for tens of thousands of miles, and it is also ranked among the best in the vast wizard continent. The depths of the mountain range are a paradise for polluted beasts and demonized beasts. According to scattered records in the Five Rings Tower, the ancient wizards built an ecological park there, where various powerful demonized beasts were kept in captivity for biological experiments. Later, an experimental accident caused the ecological park to be damaged, and a large number of demonized beasts and polluted beasts escaped. Many powerful demonized beasts live here, but of course this is not the most dangerous. The space in that place has always been unstable, and space cracks may appear at any time. Space cracks cannot be observed with the eyes. If you accidentally hit them, it is very likely that your body will be torn in half. Therefore, this place was listed as an extremely dangerous area by the Wizarding Alliance, but the map in Allen's hand actually explored a relatively safe road, which is a treasure. Chapter 200 Rocky Mountains. It is unknown who left this map. Allen knew about this ancient ruins when he was in the library. The news of this large-scale ruins is basically known by any wizard organization with a slightly longer history, but it is not easy to take things out of it, because most of these places are gathering places for ancient wizards, but the place where they are located has become a GD on Earth. Even if a legendary wizard enters it carelessly, he will be trapped in it. For example, this ecological park ruins. There were many powerful demon beasts in the ancient wizard period, and the wizards spent a lot of money to catch them. With the wizard's ability to do death at that time, Allen was not surprised by what terrifying creatures they studied. For some unknown reason at that time, the area underwent drastic changes. The entire secret realm was broken and collapsed, and there were cracks in the space, various residual rune arrays, and mutated demon beasts, which emerged in an endless stream. The space is disordered, and the teleportation spell has failed here. The space turbulence can directly involve you. If you are lucky, you will be randomly teleported, but if you are unlucky, you will be directly lost in the space, and even worse, you will be torn to pieces by the space storm. The remaining ancient rune arrays and various demon beasts here can be called murderous step by step. Over the years, many self-righteous and powerful wizards have entered it, but only a few have come out alive. So there are many people who know about this place, but few dare to break in. In the past 100 years, few people have entered. Wizards across the continent know that there are many resources and treasures here, but they can only stand outside and rule. If there is a relatively safe way to enter, the huge benefits here are enough to make people crazy. This dangerous place with chaotic energy and chaotic space has grown many strange magic plants, and rare materials such as space crystal star sand are also produced. After the chip recorded all the maps, Allen snapped his fingers, a blue flame jumped out, and the parchment quickly burned to ashes. A gust of wind blew and disappeared without a trace. It is better to destroy such a secret. The Rocky Mountains are thousands of kilometers away from the Five Rings Tower. On the way, you need to pass through the area of the Ghost Tower. With Allen's speed, it is more than enough to go back and forth in a week. Besides, you only need to leave a teleportation mark to teleport back directly. But if you want to explore, such a large area may not be completed by one person in several years. Allen needed a lot of materials in this place. After a little thought, he prepared to go. Formal wizards can apply to travel. After all, it is not a good thing to stay in the academy all the time. Although many wizards like to do research in the laboratory, necessary travel can greatly increase their knowledge. Learning from books is shallow, and you must practice to know it. Although wizards in this world don't have this saying, they also know the benefits of traveling. Formal wizards will take some time out every year to increase their knowledge. Allen's application for travel was approved smoothly, but he still needs to settle the 2 apprentices before leaving. Lilith has opened up some magic potion fields during this period. As a wizard from the ecological park, she likes to plant a large number of magic plants. It's just right for the 2 little loli to learn, and Allen's magic potion field planted in the Five Rings Tower also needs to be taken care of. There are also learning tasks for the 2 of them. Give them a thick encyclopedia of magic plants. This is the next course. The last time the academy slayed dragons, they caught a lot of sub-dragons, among which the cold-winged dragons were used as a means of transportation in large numbers. The cold-winged dragon has a wingspan of 3 meters and a very fast flying speed. It can carry 200 kilograms of heavy objects for long-distance flights. Its strength can reach the level of a 3rd level wizard apprentice, and the strongest has a level of a formal wizard. It is a good means of transportation. The Five Rings Tower has begun to breed a large number of them. Albert has made a lot of money because he can communicate with animals in a simple way. In terms of flying ability alone, most pure-blooded dragons are just passing. The dragon's body is not suitable for fast and long-term flight. They often use the power of spells. After leaving the academy, Allen flew directly to the northwest on the cold-winged dragon. Adding a flying spell to it, the speed of the cold-winged dragon, which was already very fast, has increased by a large margin. The Rocky Mountains are located in the southeast of the central part of the wizard continent. To the southeast is the Ghost Tower, and across the mountains to the west are several wizard organizations such as the Goth Institute. The environment here is suitable for the growth of magic plants. The surrounding wizard organizations pick them every year. The vast Rocky Mountains have also attracted countless wandering wizards. There are a large number of magic beasts living in the mountains, and many people will enter here to hunt. There are also some ancient ruins in the mountains. Some wizards who have no hope of advancement and are exhausted and want to fight will enter here. There are mixed fish and dragons here. Experienced wizards like to come here to pan for gold. Madsen Camp is the largest wizard trading area in the Rocky Mountains. With the Rocky Mountains behind it, a large amount of materials are traded here. It is said that behind this camp are 2 wizard organizations, the Ghost Tower and the Goth Institute. The interesting thing is that the 2 academies did not admit this, and the law enforcers of this camp are not from the 2 wizard organizations. But one thing is certain, this camp is protected by the 2. The ecological park is the largest and most famous relic in the Rocky Mountains. There are many small relics scattered everywhere in this mountain range, attracting countless wizards to rush in. There are many rumors circulating here. Some downtrodden wandering wizards accidentally obtained some heaven-defying potions or inheritances in the ruins, and became formal wizards, or even high-level wizards. The authenticity and credibility of these rumors need to be considered. So far, the only confirmed one is that a wizard has obtained inheritance here and became a 3rd level wizard. That was a sensational event 300 years ago. This person finally joined the Emerald Tower, and then his story was widely circulated in the wizarding world. Countless wandering wizards flocked here, wanting to be like that wizard and obtain inheritance in the ruins. The consequence of this is that there are a lot more dry bones in the ruins. Occasionally, some plausible rumors will circulate. Some lucky people have obtained some good things, but no wizard has ever achieved the achievement of that 3rd level wizard. Allen checked the map and flew directly to Madsen camp. It was his first time here, and Allen needed to understand the situation in the Rocky Mountains. As the largest wizard distribution center in the Rocky Mountains, it was the best place. Allen only knew about this place from the information. As one of the few wizard distribution centers on the continent, it was impossible not to be curious. The data said that when the flow of people here was the highest, there were tens of thousands of wizards living here, which was several times higher than the total population of the Five Rings Tower. Seeing a majestic mountain range stretching from north to south, like a sleeping dragon, Allen knew that he had reached his destination. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.